So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Vampire? So let's start the series. The sound of chains fill the ears of a specific fair hair and rough-looking legend, or rather previous legend of Kanahagakure. It has been a half year since he has been tossed in this phone, his chakra fixed and body tormented. Similar individuals who commended him for overcoming pain presently required his demise thanks to the new Rokudame Hokage. Danzo Shimura, the shadow of Konoha, exploited the trance-like state of the Godame Hokage Tsunade Senju to seat himself as Hokage and promptly cancelled the Sandame's regulation about Naruto. The news is met with outrage and contempt, supplanting the recognition and love they held for him. The youngster 11 acknowledged the news as Kiba Inuzuka and Niji Hyuga called him an oddity and miscreant for their misfortunes in the Chunin tests. Rock Lee and Tenten Higurashi followed their colleague's viewpoint, while Sakura Haruno called him a devil in human skin. Shino Aburame and Sai had no genuine assessment regarding this situation except for followed the agreement. The Inoshikacho triplet stood up for him, or two of did. However, Naruto told them not to do the passings of the Ichiraku family. The Konohamaru Corp would revile his name and birth with one Hinata Hyuga, becoming sick and strangely kicking the bucket. Naruto likewise discovered that Sasuke Uchiha had killed both Orochimaru and his sibling Itachi. Getting back to the town and vindicated of his surrender, the phone entryway squeaks open and Naruto lifts his head to see Sasuke remaining in the entryway, wearing a Jonin uniform. "Leave me and give us some protection," Sasuke said. The gatekeepers gesture and close the entryway. "So Dobha's jail life," Sasuke jeers. Naruto keeps an unbiased look as Sasuke approaches. "See you, beaten, broken yet resistant," he begins. Sasuke then begins to adjust Naruto like a lion would a gazelle. "Appears you won't acknowledge your general situation," he says, and generally snatches Naruto by the cheeks. "At the feet of your betters, you generally said you would be Hokage, yet that won't ever occur. Everybody knows reality, devil produce. They would prefer to torch this town and salt the earth than permit such an animal like you to lead them," Sasuke says, mushing Naruto's face. Sasuke hauls a fabric out of his pocket and wipes his hand. "Maybe I'll become Hokage as a Uchiha ought to be," he expresses. Pivoting suddenly, Naruto's head gradually downturns to conceals the unbound fury. However, hears the deriding chuckling of the Kyuubi. The following day Naruto was hauled to the Hokage Tower and hanged for his alleged violations as the town cheer in debilitated joy. Anyway, this was plot by Danzo to get his hands on the force of the Kyuubi. However, destiny settles on another way. Two individuals from the drag Naruto's carcass out the town and mystery to be recovered by their lord, yet numerous residents perform detestable follows up on his body. The two head towards an abandoned piece of the woods and into a cave found days sooner. One of them utilizes a jutsu to eliminate the bogus demise seal, yet both didn't understand that this cave held a monster of days sometime in the past. Music, "Shine Down My Name." "Who thinks for even a moment to upset my safe haven?" a dull voice murmurs. One negos to have his head hacked off as the second escapes, yet is grabbed by very shadows. "A miserable gala," the voice muses. Naruto gradually open his eyes, however sees a mass of purple-colored shadows. "A disgrace, a legend dealt with like a denounced miscreant," the voice said. Naruto sneers with a moan and a crushed laugh. "My last minutes and I'm going off the deep end database," he says. The shadows move and structure part of a seriously skinny man with clear and bruised eyes. "You're not insane, Uzumaki-san. I'm an animal of a pastime and this my grave wherein those nitwits broke into," he says. Naruto attempts to move yet acknowledges he cannot. "Will you pay attention to definite words?" he inquires. "Mitsuomi Kiryu and I will, Uzumaki-san," the man answers, and Naruto shifts his head. "I'm the child of Konoha's most prominent legend, yet treated as its most noteworthy antagonist. I have taken their maltreatment, hatred, disdain, and experienced their rage. I was deceived by purported companions and cherished by scarcely any. I know I'm about to die, yet I have laments. I was unable to reimburse the affection that was given and reimburse their disdain," Naruto says and hacks up blood. Mitsuomi tunes in peacefully yet puts his wilted hand on Naruto's chest. "Your story resembles mine, as it were, loath for things not of your control, cherished by not many. I have a proposition, Uzumaki-san. I will give your vengeance through me," Mitsuomi pronounces. Inside Naruto's seal, the Kyuubi no Yoko tunes in and murmurs. "Of the relative multitude of things to track down him, a vampire, Ningen truly do allow him to do this," the fox yells. However, inside, "The youngster will kick the bucket and I'll simply change, yet at cost of 3 tails," the fox thought. Naruto feebly lifts his hand onto Mitsuomi's hand. Why you would do that for me, he says. Gee, since you have seen damnation in your eyes, areas of strength for stay, not stress, those you love will be saved and those you disdain will kick the bucket, Mitsuomi says and chomps into Naruto's neck. The blondie jumps in torment, however leisurely feels himself biting the dust. Love them in my stead. And Mitsuomi, Naruto thought. Dying, Mitsuomi gradually ascends from Naruto with his body entire, his skin pale and his shoulders wide with a level of 6 foot 4 inches. He has an attractive face with characterized cheekbones, tormenting blue eyes and chaotic dark hair with 2 long bangs outlining his face. Mitsuomi stoops down and lifts Naruto up. Prior to shooting into a more healthy place, yet out of nowhere Naruto blasts into blazes from a red fog. The Kyuubi, Mitsuomi thought, floating overhead. Mitsuomi takes a full breath with his arms separated as the night air moves over his uncovered skin. Thank you, Naruto Uzumaki, I will achieve your retribution. By request of the no-life sovereign, he thought, disappearing to parts obscure. But 3 ladies have a similar dream of a young fellow with tormenting steel blue eyes, broadcasting he would save them from their aggregate nightmares. Song ends. Konohage Corps would change radically in long term's time. Its shinobi were prepared in savage productivity and firm reliability to their Hokage. The Hokage and board rule as tyrants, yet most compensation at no brain as their self-importance has arrived at new levels. Tsunade Senju and her disciple Shizen Kato have since a long time ago deserted the town for parts obscure, yet some would agree that no love lost. The unbelievable class, as it was currently called, were all jonin. However, the stain that was once separated of the class presently can't seem to diminish. The name Naruto Uzumaki brought a rage up in the town, yet outside its walls. His name caused Konoha to lose partners in Wave, Teki, and Suna, yet the Fire Daimyo supported Konoha to collect a coalition with Kyumo. Since the fight with Pain, the Akatsuki had gone underground, yet thunders repeated they would return. But inside, about a resuscitated Yuzushio gets the ears of the different nations and their clandestine Yuzukage and Daimyo. However, Konoha's Chunin test could draw the Kage to Konoha to test their backbone. In the Hokage Tower, Jiraiya, the last steadfast Sannin, remains before Danzo as Koharu went over reports. As yet nothing on this Yuzukage, Danzo asks. Hamura changes his glasses with a shake of his head. Nothing, not even our government operatives can break his character other than he is barely seen during the day he makes sense of. Shouldn't something be said about your government operatives, Jiraiya? Danzo inquires. Only tales are surfacing that Tsunade and Shizen were seen in Yuzushio about a month prior, Jiraiya makes sense of. They surrendered as shinobi before we could get them, yet Tsunade has given us a reason to go to Yuzushio as a generosity mission to welcome an enduring individual from one of our establishing groups back to Konoha and our previous sister town. Danzo makes sense of. Koharu and Hamura gesture, however Jiraiya wasn't entirely certain. Who do we send, he inquires. Why not the amazing class? Besides the fact that we show our capacity to this town, yet if Tsunade somehow managed to go after them, we have cause and solidarity to shield ourselves, Danzo recommends, and the 2 elderly folks and Jiraiya concur. In the meantime, Ino Yamanaka is in her family's bloom shop, orchestrating a variety of blossoms for somebody she cared deeply about. For what reason did you need to pass on Naruto? I was so going to ask you out after the fight with Pain. I even would have imparted you to Hinata, Ino thought. Thinking about the departed beneficiary, the way to the shop opens, an extremely pale young lady with dark hair, her eyes matching her hair, enter the shop. Hi Ino, the young lady says. Hello Sai, Ino says. Are those for Naruto Uzumaki? Sai asks. Ino takes a gander at the blossoms with a delicate grin and gestures. They are. I'll have to make one for Hinata as well, she says, and shift focus over to her main companion. What are you doing here? She adds. Danzo-sama has a mission for the unbelievable class. You are being shipped off Yuzushio and I'm to offer myself to the Yuzukage, Sai says, and Ino's child blue eyes enlarge in shock. Are you serious? Ino yells. Intense Ino. I realize we have become companions, however I serve Danzo-sama and I should do what he arranges, regardless of whether I like it, Sai says, before Ino embraces her. Place that is known for Whirlpool, Yuzushio-gakure. Koyuki Kazuhana and daimyo of Yuzushio remains close to a pool with her guide Tsunade Senju as somebody swims laps in said pool. Has Konoha taken the lure? Koyuki asks. Tsunade folds her arms under her faithful bust. That's right, similarly as the Gaki said, she states. Gee, is that uncertainty in your voice? A voice said, and the proprietor moves from the pool. The doused individual is constructed like flawlessness with dark hair and steel blue eyes. Shut up, Tsunade snaps. Mitsuomi, Konoha took the snare and they'll send Naruto-kun's old class, Koyuki said. Mitsuomi laughs and slicks back his wet hair. Well, that is superior to I was expecting. I figured Danzo would send his Neo the perv, yet the unbelievable class, he muses. Mitsuomi looks to the opposite side of pool where a half-bare lady is sunbathing. Oyanko, are our genin prepared for the Chunin tests 1 month from now, he yells. The previous Konoha Kunoichi lifts her shades with a sneer. Damnation, definitely. Isaribi are as yet preparing Juvia, however the others are prepared, she yells, and Mitsuomi smiles, showing his sharp canines. Well, we'll welcome the amazing class, and in the event that everything pan out in the Chunin tests, our different foes might be there too, Mitsuomi states. I have question that has been messing with me for some time. Are you truly doing this for Naruto? Tsunade asks. Mitsuomi takes a reasoning posture with a rub of his jaw. Well, I am Mitsuomi Kiryu, no life sovereign except for a piece of me is likewise Naruto Uzumaki Namake's, child of Minato Namake's and Kushina Uzumaki, he makes sense of. I'll concede. I've done things that appear to be unthinkable over the most recent 5 years, yet I said, I would save you from your bad dream, Mitsuomi adds. Tsunade didn't promptly reply due to the feeling she had during her unconsciousness. So it was you, she says, not sitting tight for an answer, and follows Koyuki. Mitsuomi jumps back in the pool with a grunt and swims to the lower part of the 30-foot pool. At the base is a young lady with purple hair in a lotus position, however the peculiarity were the gills on her neck and scales on different pieces of her body. Naruto taps her temple and she opens her understudy-less onyx eyes. Mitsuomi, she says, regardless of the water. Hi Isaribi, I needed to tell you that Konoha's unbelievable class is coming, Mitsuomi thought. Isaribi's state of mind obscures, yet Mitsuomi jabs her brow. Don't perspire them, simply center around preparing Juvia for the Chunin tests, he says. Mitsuomi looks right to a little kid with purplish blue hair in a comparative posture to Isaribi. Isaribi gestures and returns to her contemplation as Mitsuomi swims back to the surface. Anko is holding up with a towel as he moves out. How long they've been down there, she asks. Anko is wearing a sleeveless and dark cowhide top, a dark miniskirt with tie fishnets, lower leg length boots and a dim overcoat with dark gloves. 3 hours, 20 minutes, and 8 seconds, Mitsuomi answers, cleaning himself. Unexpectedly, a dark tuxedo with an orange dress shirt, dark tie and gloves shows up on his body. A silver chain dangles from his right pocket with a dim raincoat on his shoulders. Anko falls in sync with Mitsuomi, yet old recollections began to return and how she came to join Yuzushio. I owe you my life, Anko muses. Mitsuomi stops and goes to her cheerfully. Barely care about it, Anko. Konoha was prepared to kill you. Other than envision their countenances seeing the genuine force of Anko Mitarashi. Presently not smothered by a scurrilous pedo's imprint, he says. Anko contacts her neck where her imprint used to be. Both those Kurenai and Yuga are going compensation for myself and Yakumo, she murmurs. Mitsuomi laughs as they arrive at a preparation region where 3 were saving and 2 more were watching. The preparation region, or pit as he named it, is dug into the ground around 25 feet down and 30 foot squared with railing around the length. Yakumo, Karen, how's it coming? Mitsuomi yells. Karen Uzumaki wears a long-sleeve white shirt with a purple tie and dark sleeves on her wrists, dark boots, and dark shorts, with a dim fire coat meaning her Tokubetsu Jonin rank. Yakumo wears red battle dress with network tights and lower leg length boots, shin protectors and lower arm watches with gauzes to her elbows and gloves. The pair bow as Mitsuomi rests on the railing. You prepared for Kagura to take the Chunin tests, Yakumo, he inquires. Hi. I anticipate her taking care of those boneheads, Yakumo said. Mitsuomi directs his concentration toward 3 saving as they were 2 of his support points and individual guardians. The first is a lady wearing a dark calfskin top with wide sleeves, a dark miniskirt with knee-length boots and a dim raincoat hung on her shoulders. The lady has long brownish hair to her back in a pigtail and an okatana in her gloved hands. The second was a lady with pixie earthy colored hair, and she was evading the first with rich elegance, wearing a comparable outfit with typical sleeves, yet her jacket is on the railing opposite Mitsuomi. The third is a young fellow with spiky earthy colored hair, wearing dark freights with boots, a free tank top and a manageable distance gloves on his arms. Oi Ayasu, Mitsuomi yells. Ayasu gazes upward and jumps from the pit as the others keep on battling. Mitsuomi, he said. Mitsuomi knocks clenched hands with Ayasu and turns around to battle. What's the count? Mitsuomi asks. Ayasu investigates the railing as the pair fight. 50 to 45 to Yume-san, yet Karasuba-san has won the last three. He makes sense of. Mitsuomi is about pose another inquiry, yet somebody little hooks onto his back. Nitsuonayakan a little voice twitters. The proprietor is a little child of around 4 with a similarity to Yume in a botanical kimono. Hi Masubi, are you acting? Mitsuomi inquires. No, she's not, she expected to rest, another says. Masubi sticks her tongue out at one more individual from the support point shows up. Ooh, Killua, she says. Killua is around 16 and around 5'2" with spiky white hair, wearing dark freights with a white stripe down to white shoes, a dull blue spouse mixer under a dark and dim hoodie vest. Do I need to tell your mom? Killua says, with a Cheshire-like smile. Masubi pales and hops down, prior to hurrying inside with a smoke trail to her room. Mitsuomi laughs as Killua chuckles generously. Chief, Anko said Konoha is coming. Killua asks. Mitsuomi's disposition became serious and snaps his fingers as Karasuba and Yume jump from the pit. You are right. Konoha's unbelievable class is coming, more than like do their government operatives seeing Tsunade here and the ascent of their previous partner, yet they neglect to acknowledge is that Tsunade has been here. He begins. Your need is to hold her back from going after them. They'll presumably estrange her about Naruto's passing and Jiraiya's treachery. Yume and Karasuba will hold her back from going after. Killua will keep overwatch. Anko, Isaribi and Yakumo will remain stowed away. Don't bother playing every one of our cards till the Chunin tests, Mitsuomi adds. Might we at any point damage any of them? Karasuba asks. However, Yume bops her. We would rather not start a global episode, Yume rebukes. Mitsuomi rubs right in front of him with a laugh. No, we don't, except for in the event that they prompt. Well, we can have some good times, he said, and Karasuba smiles. Individuals on the boat showing up in Yuzushiogakure were blessed to receive seeing the unbelievable class of Kanahagakure. Youthful legends of Konoha, some say. Ino is away from the others as they watch the sea, yet Sasuke is scoffing at her as Sakura hangs off of him. To think she has or had eyes for that devil, Sakura says. Why a feeling for the dead? It will not bring them back, Sasuke remarks. Hello Piggy, when will you have Sasuke-kun's child? Sakura yells. Ino looks back with a dull glare all over. When I fall down and die, she snaps. Sasuke jeers with a shake of his head. You say that currently, yet hold on until I address your family, he scoffs, and Sakura laughs. The boat before long arrives at the huge port of Yuzushio and they quickly landed. Ugh, such ordinary people, is there nobody here to welcome us? Niji remarks. Sorry, unfortunately I recently showed up, a voice says. The gathering goes to a tall young fellow in a dark suit and orange dress shirt, shuffling blades with a cover. The veil has a frightening flimsy grin. Shut down eyes with a pink heart over the right eye and a purple star under the left. Sir, we are from Konoha on a generosity mission concerning somebody from our town and reconnect with our old partner, Shikamaru states. Mitsuomi gets back to his normal now on a ball. Do you mean Tsunade Senju? Then, at that point, follow me, he tweets, driving them to a huge open carriage with 4 dark ponies. By the way, I'm Mitsuomi, Mitsuomi says. It's great to see Yuzushio reawakening, Shikamaru says. As everybody moves in as the ponies takes off, Mitsuomi gestures his head with a grin concealed by his cover. Yes, loads of difficult work, he says, and looks back. That is astounding, Mitsuomi says, and shocks them by concurring with Kiba. But Mitsuomi thinks back once more, however, with a slant of his head. It's so incredibly regrettable, he adds. Kiba is going to assault, yet Sasuke streaks his EMS. Plunk down. Don't humiliate us, Sasuke murmurs. You fail to remember we are in Yuzushiogakure. We don't want to blow things, Sakura adds. They very right, such demonstrations could be viewed as unfriendly, Mitsuomi says. The carriage shows up at the daimyo home and everybody follows the vampire inside. What limit do you serve here in Yuzushio? Shino asks. Mitsuomi makes the ways for the royal chamber with a contiguous overhang and Koyuki sits upon her high position. Tsunade remains out of the way with Yume and Karasuba flanking her. So this is the popular class of the Konoha, who became well known in the Konoha Pound and Pain's intrusion, Karasuba thought. Mitsuomi turns with a bow and his hand on his heart, apologizes. Permit me to once again introduce myself. I'm Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kiryu, Shodain Yuzukage of Yuzushiogakure, he states, stunning some of them. PFFFU Akage Kiba yells. Mitsuomi slants his head with a snicker and turns with a highlight. Koyuki, then, at that point, ask my daimyo whom delegated me, he says. Koyuki levels a serious look to Kiba and he winces. I know the town of Yuzushiogakure is still in its early stages contrasted with its past or even Kanahagakure, yet don't question my decision for Kage, she states. Woman Koyuki, pardon him, but for what reason are you in Yuzushio? Were you not the daimyo of Snow Country? Ino asks. Koyuki's face becomes morose and she moans, a long time back, a devastating seismic tremor hit our country, many were killed. She starts and looks to Mitsuomi. Anyway, Mitsuomi offered us a spot to live and remake. We owe him to such an extent, Koyuki adds, and the vampire grins behind his veil. You ought to have come to Konoha, not some backwater country that was obliterated quite a while back, Sasuke says. Have very much like the leaf to believe they're above everybody, Karasuba said. Mitsuomi folds his arms despite his good faith. Presently now, Karasuba, no need to affront them, they are the unbelievable class of Konoha, offspring of the celebrated groups on Kanahagakure. Yet pardon me, wasn't there one more? Woman Koyuki enlightened me concerning him. He endlessly begins pacing. How he carried spring to Snow Country, how he saved Konoha's partners on a few events, yet for the existence of me I don't have the foggiest idea about his name. Naruto, Mitsuomi says and snaps his fingers. Naruto Uzumaki, he says. How the dobe was killed for the devil he was, Kiba yells. However, not frequently, I concur with the canine. The dobe was killed for not submitting to his betters and carrying annihilation to our town, Sasuke says. He was killed out of dread. The leaf needed a weapon, yet a moronic weapon simple to control, but Naruto offered such a huge amount for a town who praises double-crossers, Tsunade said icily. Try not to discuss Sasuke-kun like that bitch, Sakura yells. You tricks fail to remember Naruto took me back to the town, yet when he left and every one of you almost kicked the bucket, you accused Naruto. Tsunade snaps, pointing at Sasuke. Koyuki ascends from her seat. Kindly quiet down, Tsunade-sama. Presently, why have you come other than altruism, she states. Ruler Hokage wants for woman Tsunade to get back to Konoha as the last enduring Senju 1010 beginnings. Additionally, since Yuzushio and Konoha were previous partners, we would like revive that relationship. Shikamaru proceeds. You leaf individuals keep on frustrating me, selling one of your own, coming here under generosity. No, you need to control Tsunade-sama. However, she is an individual from Yuzushio as woman Koyuki's counsel and the chief, Karasuba states. Your point, Konoha is being liberal. Your nation was obliterated a long time back, Sasuke says. Mitsuomi goes to Sasuke with a slant of his head. Yes, it was. 3 of the 5 incredible towns decided to clear out our nation, but we few Uzumaki recall how our main partner saw fit not to help us. All the while assuming a pretense of being past the point of no return, he says. What do you mean? Our powers relate, Niji jeers. Mitsuomi sways his finger and focuses to Tsunade. Tsunade-sama has uncovered such things to me. I realize you have faith in destiny and are happy your cousin passed on. I know Rock Lee is futile without his taijutsu and wouldn't be here notwithstanding my departed clansmen. I know Tenten Higurashi is pointless non-thinking people that is follows the group. I realize Sakura Haruno is a pointless fangirl regardless of being prepared by Tsunade-sama. I likewise realize you spit on the memory of said clansman, he says. That evil spirit lucked out and individuals kicked the bucket as a result of him, Sakura shrieks. Mitsuomi fixes his cover with a slant of his head. So Naruto had the right beyond words, something not of his control. He was hanged and his body defiled after death in view of what, having a biju inside him. When you pour ramen in a bowl, does the bowl become ramen? No, it's the compartment, as was Naruto. He was the holder, not the biju he makes sense of. What in the world do you know? Naruto was an evil presence in human skin, Tenten says. Wow, such pressure, Killua expresses, coming from the gallery. Killua investigates the gathering, however jeers with his hands behind his head. Some class, I bet any of the support points could beat them, he muses. Kiba snarls uproariously as Niji glares. What did you say, imp? Kiba yells. What Killua said was any of my 4 points of support could overcome any of you, Mitsuomi says, in a disgustingly sweet and ridiculing tone. Karasuba ventures forward with a sneer. I concur with you, Killua, except for the Uchiha or sluggish around there. I express any of the 4 points of support could take them effortlessly, she notes. I could overcome the kid in spandex with negligible exertion, Yume says. Lee forward moving steps with his eyes consuming, yet Mitsuomi applauds. Hi, Then what about a bet? My 4 points of support versus Lee, Niji, Tenten, and Kiba. You win. Tsunade will get back to Konoha. However, in the event that you lose, Sai and maybe MS Yamanaka will stay here until the Chunin tests a month from now, he states. We could never consent to that, and we just see 3 support points. Sakura yells. Mitsuomi thinks back to the others and slaps his hand like a youngster. My apologizes, yet our 4th support point serves as a jonin teacher. So could I step in, he said, and relies on his fingers. Kajum faces Lee, Killua faces Kiba, Karasuba faces Tenten, and Niji faces me. Sounds okay, he adds. We acknowledge. Kiba unexpectedly yells, not hanging tight for any other person's perspective. Shikamaru, Shoji, and Shino shook their heads as Ino moans in disdain. You really do know the stakes, Ino said, however, was fascinated to find out about Mitsuomi. Come on, Piggy, these nobodies couldn't beat the incredible class, Sakura states. Tsunade nearly couldn't conceal the sneer all over. Those nitwits got bulldozed. With barely a second thought, she thought. Mitsuomi applauds and coaxes for them to follow. Follow me and we'll finish this, he says, and leads them to the pit and turns with a fold of his jacket. Who might want to go first, or we can stand by until tomorrow to give you an opportunity to plan, Mitsuomi inquires. We go. At this point, Kiba yells and jumps in with Akamaru. Killua jumps down with hands in his pockets. Killua ease off of him. Mitsuomi yells. Music, Baki 2018 OST tension. Try not to misjudge me, imp, Kiba snarls. Killua shoots forward with his palm crawls from Kiba's face. Right on, Jabashi, he says, and Kiba disintegrates into a pile. The unbelievable class were dazed at Kiba's unexpected misfortune as Mitsuomi laughs. Still wanna proceed, Mitsuomi says. Killua brings Kiba out with Akamaru close by, yet Ten jumps in. Kiba was the most vulnerable among us, Niji counters. Karasuba jumps in with her katana drawn as Tenten opens a couple of parchments. Sashoria, she yells, discharging her weapons. Karasuba plants her feet. Itoriu, Sanjiroku Poundho, she says, swinging wide. Tenten jerks as the entirety of her weapons were parried away and she shunsins behind the blonde, yet Karasuba evades. It appears you depend on weapons on Nanoko, Karasuba comments. Tenten gets 2 kunai in an opposite hold, however Karasuba sheathes her sword and leaves. You're not a test, I'm exhausted, Karasuba says and jumps out the pit. Tenten stands with a frown and jumps out too. That is a relinquish, we win that one, Sakura yells. Lee sees the rankled look on Ten's face as Sakura approaches Lee. Lee-kun, assuming that you win I will allow you to have me, Sakura murmurs, and Lee bursts into flames with his blazes of youth. YOSH, my childhood will consume brilliantly, Lee yells. Yum stands calmly as Lee jumps in and Yum gives him a bow. Before the bowl cut surges in, but it is over in seconds as Lee is out on the ground. What on God's green earth, Lee? Sakura shrieks. Sasuke has his Sharingan enacted and he was the main one to see, other than a specific vampire and Yum. A right guy to the jaw into a left uppercut and followed by a left roundhouse kick. Unthinkable, Sasuke thought. Shikamaru rubs his temple with a murmur. Mendokusiai, he mumbles. Mitsuomi bounces on the railings with a laugh. Well, it's my move, he says. Niji drops in the pit with Mitsuomi close by. I will not be quickly beaten like them, he says, enacting his Byakugan. No, yet I figure it will be simpler, Mitsuomi says. Niji shifts into his delicate clench hand position, yet the vampire shocks them as he approaches Niji and sneaks off his left glove, in a bit of extending regard with a drawn-out hand. But Niji hammers a palm strike right to Mitsuomi's face and breaks his veil as he lurches back. Ha, take that, Bacchus, Sakura yells. The veil pieces tumble to the floor as Niji grins, however Mitsuomi snickers. I truly do accept you killed my cover, Mitsuomi says, uncovering his face. Ino's child blue eyes extend and gleam at uncover of Mitsuomi's face. He is the one from my feelings, she thought. Sakura laughs at Mitsuomi's attractive face. Sasuke-kun is such a great deal more sizzling, she states. Mitsuomi slicks back his hair as Niji charges again, yet the vampire moves with barbaric beauty. Wow, in the event that one those hit me, I'm toast, Mitsuomi jokes. Retreating, Niji maintains the tension and Mitsuomi continues to evade yet more without a moment to spare, stunning the others yet not his support points. Keep still, worker, Niji yells, however Naruto gets his outstretched hand. Naruto scarcely moves the arm and Niji shouts in desolation from a now broken arm, dropping the Hyuga Wonder to the ground, and he snatches the hand for a well-disposed handshake. Greetings yet again, I'm Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kiryu and not laborer, Mitsuomi said and looks up to the dazed looks of the unbelievable class, however more to the fulfilled looks all over. prior to jumping out, song ends. So by prudence of 3-1, we win and Ms. Yamanaka and Sai will stay here until the Chunin tests, Mitsuomi notes. Shikamaru rubs his head and mumbles Mendokusai, he's right, you folks lost the second. Kiba opened his motor mouth, he says. Mitsuomi snatches a couple of shades from his jacket and slips them on with a gesture. Exceptionally perceptive, Mr. Nara. On the other hand, you were dependable, the brilliant one, he remarks, and Shikamaru frowns. Koyuki and Tsunade find the gathering once more and see Sakura taking care of Niji and the vibes of outrage from Lee, Tenten, and Kiba. So the incredible class isn't all that unbelievable, the slug Sannin notes. Sakura leaves Niji and is going to charge Tsunade, yet a firm slap from Ino puts her on the ground. You have shamed Konoha with your remarks and activities today. If Koyuki-sama or Kariya-sama needed, we could be generally detained, Ino said, briskly. Like this measly nation could overcome Konoha. Sakura shot. Mitsuomi grunts and laughs delicately, however degenerates and clearly giggling, and his support points grin. Goodness, as a matter of fact, then get some information about our strength, Karasuba replies. Haha, they wouldn't be aware. Haha, that little elderly person. Haha, please accept my apologies, I'll control this. Haha, yet I'm coming up short. He wouldn't think for even a second to spread the word. Haha, Mitsuomi says. Shikamaru's eyes tight as Mitsuomi keeps on chuckling. For what reason wouldn't he? Shikamaru asks. Tsunade shakes her head with a look to Mitsuomi. A half-year prior, woman Koyuki attempted to lay out a coalition with IWA by sending Mitsuomi and the support points, but the old wall-sitter chose to get snobbish and the cost was 4 broken ribs, an arm, a jaw and his back, excluding the 100 beaten shinobi she makes sense of. Ino looks to Mitsuomi with wide eyes. You crushed the Sandaime Tsuchikage, Ino says, suspiciously. Isha, Susuke-kun could do that effortlessly, Sakura yells. Mitsuomi jumps on the railing with a JoJo present. Better believe it, and his scrappy granddaughter as well, he murmurs. Without their Jinchuriki they didn't have a potential for success, Tsunade remarks. Presently our Chunin will accompany you to a lodging in the city, and I might want to stretch out a greeting to remain here until you return. Ms. Yamanaka, Ms. Saikoki states. 2 kunoichi seen through Lee Shunshin. The first is tall with earthy colored hair and wearing a short, bare-backed, red full bodysuit over network shield, alongside a couple of careful distance gloves and a light orange scarf. A long blue-green cover skirt which is open toward the front, wraps on her wrists, covering every last bit of her right left as well as her left thigh and leg with fire coat. The second had dark hair and green eyes, wearing a perfectly sized dim variety kunoichi uniform, with a right shoulder watch, dim gloves, an opening in her shirt which uncovers a portion of her cleavage with dim fire coat unfastened. Shizuka, Tokiwa kindly escort them to the endowment of Spring Inn, Koyuki orders, and both bow. Indeed, milady, Shizuka says. The gathering hesitantly follow them as Sai and Ino stay with Mitsuomi, while Koyuki-sama, on your request I'll disappear and accompany them to my home, Mitsuomi says. Obviously, Mitsuomi, Koyuki says as she and Tsunade return inside. Mitsuomi handles Ino and Sai's shoulder. Won't require a moment, he says, and each of the 3 evaporate in a dark blaze. The 3 return in the nursery of an unobtrusive 2-story home. What was that? Ino says, panting. It's the Harem of the unbelievable Yondaime, Mitsuomi says, stunning Ino. The home has a back deck to the nursery and a confidential natural aquifer and open-air shower. How might you know the Harem of our Yondaime? Ino asks. Mitsuomi drives them to table on the deck and coaxes for them to sit. I'll respond to that, yet I take it you have different inquiries, he says. Indeed, are you the one from a feeling I had a long time back today? Ino asks. Mitsuomi folds his legs with a delicate, thoroughly search in his eyes. I am, however, to really figure out that I should make sense of what I'm known as a vampire, he says, and stops to let it hit home. Anyway, quite a while back, I met the one you both know as Naruto Uzumaki, Mitsuomi says, and both of their eyes broaden. Why you met Naruto yet? How? Ino expresses, attempting to make sense of this. Mitsuomi relaxes his tie and rubs his neck. Danzo looked for the force of the Kyubi. He was placed into a misleading passing-like express. His neck carried him to a sepulchre they found, yet in the process they stirred me. He starts and stops. That makes sense of why Danzo-sama was infuriated by Naruto's vanishing from the graves, Sai says, and the vampire gestures. I listened his story and he requested to save those he thought often about and make the ones who hurt pay for their wrongdoings, Mitsuomi answers. In the event that this valid, For what reason did you stand by 5 years to save us? We have through so much. Hinata kicked the bucket. My colleagues newbies treat as some untouchable. Even my folks peer down on me for not favoring the group, Ino yells, shooting up from her seat. Mitsuomi ascends from his seat and adjusts the table to look Ino and her child blue. I'm sorry, Ino. I believed I should have been commendable, so I set to work fabricating a spot for yourself and other to be protected, he says. I realize I can't supplant Naruto yet. I will attempt to assist you as best I with canning, Mitsuomi says. How could you pull this off? Yuzushio was cleared out, Ino asks. The pair gradually retake their seat. Formally, Spring Nation experienced a seismic tremor, yet informally. I moved everything and everybody from spring to here after I remade this spot with thousands upon heaps of clones. I additionally went through the years gathering partners. Some you know and others you don't. I came to Konoha a few times to free certain things and individuals, Mitsuomi says. How could you gain proficiency with the Harem? It is fixed inside the consecrated parchment I accept, Sai asks. Mitsuomi eliminates his jackets and moves up his passed-on sleeve to show a tattoo. Mine is more likened to your Naidame Hokage rather than his dad, he says, and both curve an eyebrow. This is amusing. Naruto's dad is basically venerated and his child is abhorred. In the event that individuals of Konoha had regarded him as the yandame needed, he would be their most grounded shinobi, Ino says. Mitsuomi reclines in his seat and laughs. Presently, permit me to show you to your spaces for the evening. I actually need to take care of my Kage obligations, he states. We can share a room, Ino says, and both follow Mitsuomi inside as he leads them through the unobtrusive home, and higher up to second floor, he makes a way for room, containing a jumbo 4-banner bed with dull blue sheets and shades. If it's not too much trouble, appreciate, Mitsuomi says and sneaks into the shadows. Ino gradually ventures inside with Sai close behind. This is exceptionally bizarre and such a being exists, Sai asks. Ino thuds onto the bed with a murmur. We have a month to figure out every little thing about him, she answers. Yuzukage Tower. A young lady sits inside an office, her golden eyes looking over different reports and her mid-length blue hair holding a white rose. Mitsuomi ventures out the shadows as the lady looks into. I heard Konoha sent their renowned class, she says. Mitsuomi sneaks off his jacket and sat down on the couch close to it. Exactly the same Conan, and I figured out how to catch in Yamanaka for the month, yet additionally Danzo sent me one of his robots, he says, folding his legs. Conan gives him a pompous murmur. So it starts, she states. Better believe it, to save from their aggregate bad dreams and cause Konoha to figure out their transgressions, Mitsuomi says, showing a couple of bifocals. Conan gazes at the vampire who saved her from death, a by a substance piece of one who turned into the scaffold to harmony. Smaller than expected flashback. Conan feels her life being gagged away as Toby has his hand around her throat. When this genjutsu is finished, you will kick the bucket and I will have the Rinnegan, he says. Briskly, Conan battles to stop him, yet her eyes begin to diminish. Is that a way to treat a lovely woman? A voice reverberations. Conan tumbles to the water with a swallowing hack as Toby has him covered to her and a figure with tormenting steel blue eyes gazing back as she sneaks through obviousness. End small flashback. Conan ascends from her seat and uncovers her structure, garbed in lower leg length white creased skirt with dark high heel boots, a dark sweater with disengaged sleeves and neck area yet connected with network texture. Mitsuomi turns upward as she sits down close to him and he sat down at the work area. Conan, have you tracked down him yet? He asks. Conan folds her legs, a frown mires her magnificence. No, I've looked through each Akatsuki base I know, yet Obito has demonstrated subtle. But there is one spot I will attempt, she makes sense of. Be cautious. I don't wish to lose my right hand, all things considered, Mitsuomi says, marking a few papers. Conan before long reasons herself to turn in as the vampire progresses forward with the vein of his own life. Such a detestable creation, he thought. Mitsuomi investigates the different papers as entryway opens and Tsunade moves toward. Something at the forefront of your thoughts, he asks, not looking into. The blonde excellence sits down as the vampire peruses a report. I wish to become like you, she says. Mitsuomi gazes upward with a clear gaze. Care to rehash that, he inquires. I said I need to become like you, Tsunade rehashes. Mitsuomi throws his glasses on the work area and rubs his eyes. Why, in view of Jiraiya and his double crossing, he says. Tsunade's honey earthy colored eyes gleam as she ascends from the couch. You has a piece of my main family. Konoha has taken enough from me and I believe that the power should make them pay, she states. Mitsuomi gazes with a surprised look all over at Tsunade's resolved face. You would surrender your mankind, let the Senju name pass on for vengeance, he says. I previously done whatever it takes, on account of my jutsu. I gathered 12 of my eggs throughout the course of recent years. Shizen has consented to be my proxy assuming I decided to proceed with the Senju name. I'm requesting that you empower me to retaliate for my family. To address the mix-up of their self-importance, Tsunade counters. Mitsuomi gradually ascends from his seat and shuts the hole to lift her jaw. You thoroughly considered this, even the chance of turning out to be separated of me or a fiend has not deflected you, he says and grins. Hee. Fascinating, I will respect your solicitation, Tsunade Senju, Mitsuomi says and kisses her cheeks. It would be my honor, he adds. Tsunade feels destroys run her cheeks as Mitsuomi turns her around. Presently shut your eyes, he says, however covers them with his hand. Mitsuomi edges nearer to her neck as Tsunade gradually tenses. Before his teeth pierce her neck and a voiceless shout raises its head, Mitsuomi voraciously drinks Tsunade's blood as his free hand grasps her midriff as she battles, yet she gradually lax. He pulls away with a murmur and keeps quiet to fill his mouth with blood and retches a portion of Tsunade's blood to blend. Prior to reinserting his teeth in her neck, a genuine shout surges from Tsunade's mouth as Mitsuomi's blood flows through her veins, spreading like white fire through each muscle and to her cerebrum. The aggravation spreads to her arms, down her legs to her toes, and each in the middle of between as her entire being shakes with torment. Mitsuomi brings various shadow hands to hold Tsunade as she excoriates about, yet she seizes as her heart stops. Out of nowhere a tingling ejects in Tsunade's body like insects creeping over her structure. It damages, she cries, as red leaks from her eyes. I know, yet you should persevere, Mitsuomi says, his voice serious. Tsunade's jaw grips as her new teeth sprout from her gums. Her internal parts wriggle and heartbeat with her breath framing a fog. Mitsuomi feels wicked strength pushing on him, however his raises his all on her place as her skin pales and going from her 50s to her mid-20s. Mitsuomi discharges his hold as Tsunade falls, yet he surrenders her to ride her as he moves at his disposal. Tsunade opens her hazy eyes and Mitsuomi sees they were as yet a honey tone, yet a more acidy color. Tsunade, drink, he says, cutting his vein. A couple of drops hit her separated lips and Tsunade rapidly locks on with two hands, her eyes becoming empty like with brilliant irises and dark sclera, yet the blue looked at vampire curves an eyebrow at the fragrance of excitement. Mitsuomi pulls his wrist away as Tsunade pants vigorously, however she frowns. That is enough for this evening, he says, stroking her blood-smudged cheek. Tsunade just gazes yet inclines toward his touch. Don't leave me, please, she murmurs. Mitsuomi settles himself on her and delicately kisses her cheek. I won't leave you. I will show you all that you really want to be aware, he answers. Mitsuomi transports them to his room and lays her on the bed, permitting her to sneak by the dull blue covers as this mind-boggling feeling of rest defeating her structure. Rest and be renewed, Tsunade Senju. When you stir, you will want me, Mitsuomi murmurs, kissing her sanctuary. He shuts the shades, yet his gaze goes out into the distance and a snarl gets away from his mouth, prior to disappearing. Mitsuomi returns in the city before Sasuke and the last option TSKS. This an unfamiliar country, Sasuke-san. It is imprudent to go to limited places, Mitsuomi says, his arms collapsed despite his good faith. So what? This ought to be a sublime day for your insignificant country, Sasuke expresses, going after his Chikuto. But something cold contacts the foundation of his neck and Sasuke's eyes enlarge. That would be indiscreet, Sasuke-san, Mitsuomi expresses, right behind him. How could he get behind me, Sasuke thought. Mitsuomi holds a 1911 yearling with a serious look all over. Recall this second, the following time, you decide to go where you not needed, he says. Sasuke rapidly whips around, yet Mitsuomi gone. What in blazes, Sasuke thought. The following day before long comes and the gathering of Konoha shinobi less Ino and Sai meet external the inn. Sasuke-kun, what's going on? Sakura says, however Sasuke overlooks her as the carriage from the earlier day out of nowhere shows up with Mitsuomi, Sai, and Ino. Hi, by and by, since your gathering is leaving this evening, I figured I would provide you with a visit through our town, Mitsuomi states, having sworn off his suit coat and veil for the day as the gathering hesitantly move on board. The ponies neigh as the open carriage begins to move. How would you police your town? I scarcely have seen any umbu or shinobi, Niji asks. As yet stinging from his loss, Mitsuomi focuses to various individuals wearing dark military regalia. Well, our town is somewhat little regarding the large five. Our police force is made of the people you find in Dark. They are the Nanba Police Power or NPF drove by Hajime Sugoroku and his significant other Momoko Hayakushi concerning shinobi powers I can't remark for clear reasons he makes sense of. I bet they're all powerless, Kiba yells. Mitsuomi didn't let out the slightest peep as the carriage stops at the doors of a school. Our most memorable stop is our foundation. It follows the educational program of the others countries, yet our graduating age is raised to 16, he makes sense of. What might be said about wonders or exceptionally skilled understudies, Shikamaru asks, as they land. Mitsuomi turns with a delicate grin. While those understudies are permitted to embrace an apprenticeship or proceed with their last a very long time with a high-level educational plan and remittance to take D-rank missions, or C-rank if essential, upon graduations groups are picked with some having significant experience going in he makes sense of. Doesn't appear to be clamoring, Sakura comments. Mitsuomi looks around to the different understudies. Well, that will be normal. A large number of understudies are first-year shinobi due to that we are sending just 2 groups to the Chunin tests he makes sense of. Skillet Dad Kapon, a voice yells. The gathering turns as gorgeous blonde and green-eyed lady is drawing nearer with 4 little kids. Her outfit comprises of a blue vest-like piece of clothing which is open like a coat, a dark skirt and pantyhose with lower leg boots, incorporating a mariner cap with the Yuzushi Ogakure image on it. Mitsuomi gives her a kiss on each cheek and she does likewise. I'd like you to meet Atego, one of our teachers, and these are the Fubuki sisters, Akatsuki, Hibiki, Izukuchi and Inazuma he makes sense of. The 4 were dressed something very similar in Sarafuku with a bloom symbol on the chest. With Akatsuki and Hibiki have dark naval force caps, the 4 offer a typical characteristic of rumpled hair and matching eyes, Akatsuki with dull purple hair, Hibiki with dyed or light somewhat blue hair, Izukuchi having rosy earthy colored hair and Inazuma having earthy colored hair. Hi Yuzukage-san, the 4 welcomed, bowing. Hi to you also, have you been getting along nicely? Mitsuomi asks and Akatsuki puffs her chest. Hi, I am a abounding fledged adult afterwards all, Akatsuki states. Mitsuomi carefully beam and shockingly ducks beneath a white sheath nodachi. It's by her adolescent woman with affiliated amethyst beard and angel cut, chestnut eyes, and a white chaplet with a white award angry at the average in a bow, pointing beeline up. The Kanoha accumulation were abashed, but the sisters and Atego abandoned beam as Mitsuomi squats on his heels with an adventurous smile. Getting bigger Kagura but still too slow, Mitsuomi says. Kagura wears an busy blazer with gold lining and an ample collar, which is attainable to acknowledge a collared shirt and red tie underneath, a brace of white wrist-high gloves, on her legs a brace of atramentous tights, which are tucked into a brace of knee-high boots and sit beneath a abbreviate white frilled skirt. She capital to abruptness you with her new sword articulation comments. The accumulation turns to a adolescent man with annoying atramentous beard and aphotic dejected eyes, dressed in aphotic dejected cargo's pants tucked into amber boots, a amethyst zip-up belong in amethyst arm sleeves. Greykuan Atego says, glomping the boy. However, Juvia appears and snatches Grey from Atego. Ma Juvia-chan, she says, but the academy alarm rings. Banishment her to retreat with the Fubuki sisters. Juvia wears a knee-high aphotic dress accoutrement which is adorned with 4, symmetrically placed, light-colored buttons on the chest. The accoutrement is busy with fur trimmings about her sleeve cuffs and neck. Juvia additionally wears a matching, dark, Russian-style hat, August with a light-colored butterfly clip, which, in itself, is absorbed to the fur accent beautification her hat. Why all the ruckus? Addition articulation comments. This time a adolescent woman with affiliated red hair, dressed in white with atramentous sleeve orantial shirt and atramentous action brim with boots. Who are these runts? Skiba shouts. Mitsuomi clears his throat and all 4 angle at attention. These are 4 of the 6 genin branch to the Chunin exams. Kagura Mikazuchi, Grey Fullbuster, Juvia Loxer and Urza Scarlet, he states. They don't attending tough. Our genin will abash them, Choji comments and Kiba scoffs. I'd rather get some of that albino than see some genin, Kina sneers. Abundant access of Ki strikes Kiba as all 4 were audacious at him. Leave Ategone alone, they said in unison. Kiba is about to antiphon or advance but he freezes as Mitsuomi stares from abaft his sunglasses. Now my admirable genin. You should see your sensei and abide your training, he says. Hi Mitsuenii, they say and vanish via Shunshin. Shall we move on perhaps? Mitsuomi adds. The accumulation acknowledgement to the carrying in blackout, but Ino decides breach it. Quite a accomplished accumulation, but they don't assume to be from actuality accustomed their ages, she asks. The horses amble forth as Mitsuomi nods. Koyuki-sama and I acquainted Yuzushio should be a abode of new ancestry and open the borders to those whom capital a change. Our genin and 4 pillars are that result. Ayasu Date is a shinobi abecedarian originally from Spring Country and one of our new beacons of the future, he explains. The carrying moves through the streets of Baka Atramentus acreage on Mitsuomi's shoulder. Fascinating, he muses, before it flies away. Is article a Miss Aristocrat Yuzukage, Ino asks. Mitsuomi glances aback with an eye smile. Oh, nothing. It's aloof. Kage's assignment is never done. Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, he said. The Bunshin appears abutting to him and takes the reins as Mitsuomi rises. Excuse me, I'll accommodated you at docks to see our fleet, he says. He hops abundant and lets force booty authority as he vanishes to Shuinpa. Abrogation anybody addled except Ino and Sai. The carrying continues on until at Alcova abounding breadth and the hospital congenital amid the forest. The hospital has bristles adventure architecture and a budding 3 adventure architecture for analytical and acute affliction with admirable garden for patients to relax. At the hospital's axis stands Karen in her compatible but adds a white coat. Abutting to her was an adolescent man. Welcome to Able-Bodied of Spring Hospital. I'm one of the hospital's co-directors, Karen Uzumaki, and this is one of our genin, Yukamaro, Karen states. Yukamaro has amethyst eyes and affiliated pale green hair. His accoutrements consists of a bathrobe with a jade green central and a bla al fresco fourth with cadet blue pants with bandages bottomward to his ankles and sandals. Uzumaki like the demon Kiba spits and Karen glares abaft her glasses. Yes, and my cousin, so watch your aperture, trash, Karen hisses. Kiba raises his duke, but a duke grabs him from behind. You would adroit to accountability from this Kanowa shinobi articulation comments. Alpine man with annoying but slicked-back orange beard stands abaft Kiba, dressed in black cargos and a atramentus anorak shirt. Yugo Sasuke says and Yugo nods but notices the disdain. It's been a while, Sasuke. Yugo replies, blame Kiba aside. Karen bolt her easily to get their attention. Please hunt me and I'll accord you the tour, she says, and anybody follows. Now this hospital was founded by adult Tsunade and is the amount of our mezzanine force. Yukamaro actuality a prime archetype of this, Karen explains, and Yukamaro blushes. So you've implemented the medical ninja affairs Tsunade-sama capital for Konoha actuality in Yuzushio, Shikamaru asks, and Karen nods. Konoha absolutely busted up, a new articulation comments. Alpine woman with brownie argent beard and amethyst eyes but one covered by an eye patch, dressed in a atramentus dress clothing with a bla arroyo accoutrement on her amateur with atramentus confined on the accept plates. Hello Nagenda-sen, Karen says with a slight bow and Nagenda does the same. So this the chic that the pillars embarrassed, Nagenda comments. Niji and the others took offense. So you're the 4th pillar, Niji comments. Nagenda tilts her head. Who told you there were abandoned 4 pillars, she says. You're fucking Kage, Kiba shouts, and Nagenda laughs. And you believed him? For high-class shinobi you're dumb, Nagenda states. Karen keeps the bout effective as Nagenda accompanies them. So how abounding pillars are there really, Shikamaru asks. Nagenda glances to the apathetic genius. The pillars are agnate to your 12 guardian ninja, she explains but smirks. And that's all I say, she adds, and Shikamaru frowns. What array of techniques are in use for austere injuries, Ino states. Abashed Shikamaru from his thoughts, Karen leads to the ascertainment allowance breadth the anaplasty is activity on with Shizen assuming it, while we use assorted techniques, acupuncture to shiatsu like specialized anesthetic, and to be frank, I ambition Hinata Hyuga was still animate and affiliated her training. We could accept accomplished new heights with addition of her caliber. The Byakugan could attainable up a accomplished new acreage of medical study, Karen explains. Niji glares at Karen and she glares appropriate back at him, but Sakura clears her throat. You should be administration your addendum with us to bigger our medical program. I was Tsunade's student, Sakura says, but Karen scoffs, audacious at the blush beard girl. Are you serious? You betrayed Tsunade-sama and Shizen-sama. I will not be administration our works with you, Karen says, and Sakura glares at her. The bout continues as they accommodated assorted doctors, and meanwhile their absolute bout advisor is ambidextrous with an assertive matter. NPF HQ. Nanba Badge HQ is one of the best defended accessories in Yuzushio. It houses 6 underground levels for prisoners and bristles aloft as the affection of the NPF. Central one of its claiming apartment was administrator and administrator of Nanba Momoko Hayakushi. Momoko wears a bittersweet clothing with her nameplate on her larboard breast, with her arm bandage spelling out administrator and a red tie. At the top of her tie is a gold brand with the kanji for 100 on it. Is able-bodied as 2 gold confined on her collar. On anniversary of her amateur are 2 gold spikes, cutting white gloves with red hearts amidst by gold on them. She additionally wears a atramentus belt about her waist with a bisected demon-like face in gold with spikes, and wears knee aerial atramentus boots that are adorned with 6 argent stripes anniversary with hearts amidst by gold, which boring increases in measurement as they go up, with the aftermost hearts on top of the boots excepting gold spikes abashed out of them. Both boots except gold beautification at the top and bottom. She about wears her administrator hat with a gold beautification with 2 spikes abashed upwards. Across from Momoko was an adolescent man with a photic bark and blanched blush beard with an affected smile and ink blush eyes. The shinobi is dressed in all atramentus and his abdomen apparent with an abbreviate tanto amid them. Momoko leans advanced with a adamantine look. I'll ask one after most time. Why were you and your compatriots cheating about adult Koyaki's palace, she asks, but the shinobi charcoal quiet with his affected smile. Fucking bastard, Momoko thought. Alfresco attractive through the one-way mirror were Momoko's best trusted guards added than her bedmate of Seiman Goku, Kiji Mitsuba, and Kenshiro Yazakura, or accepted as Kiji, Inu and Saro. Kiji wears the accepted Nanba atramentus uniform, busy with azure and violet chaplet and advisors, a collar with greenish azure accoutrement, and wears the accepted white gloves. He wears a brace of high heels that are atramentus and blush and is busy with aureate pheasant accoutrement at the end. Inu wears the accepted bouncer compatible with slight modifications, donning on a blush haori with sakura patterns, and the adumbration on his hat is a sakura bloom with accepted white gloves. Sara wears the academic compatible as able-bodied but additionally has 2 gongs on his amateur and a red belt which has an adaptable affiliated red appendage absorbed to it. He wears a brace of red boots with gold and blooming ornaments. I admiration what country he's from. Yuzukage-sama is actual absolute unbound security, Inu comments. Kiji stares at his absorption in his compact. They could be from Konoha due to adult Tsunade and the allegorical chic actuality here, he states. A blithe but apocalyptic amusement fills the hall. Very adroit, my admirable Kiji. Articulation coups. Kiji blushes as Inu and Saro beam with bare looks as the anteroom darkens and Mitsuomi accomplish out the shadows. They are accepted as the Nin are the claimed force of the accepted Hokage, he states. How abounding were sent, Mitsuomi adds. Appropriation is glasses. Saro accomplish advanced with a salute. A band of 8. All were bedfast by us and brought actuality, but they bits to talk, he explains. Mitsuomi smiles an acclamation Saro on the head. Sir. Why do you consistently achievement me on the head? Saro asks. Mitsuomi rubs his button with his duke still on Saro's head. Sorry, but you're the absolute acme, and Momoko does it too, Mitsuomi replies. My pride, Saro says, authoritative, a babyish face. Momoko accomplish out with a TSK. Lousy bastard, she mutters. Mitsuomi looks through the canteen at the shinobi, but his eyes narrow. He has a allowance on his argo that won't acquiesce him acknowledge anything, he says, but shows his fangs. Except from me, he adds, an accomplished central, but locks the door. So you won't allocution or can't, he muses. Are you the Yuzukage? The shinobi said. Mitsuomi titters as he runs his gloved feel forth the lath and circuit the desk. I bet your master has been chomping at the bit to apprentice the backbone of our country, he says, active his gloved fingers up his arm. No charge to be abashed, Saito, Naruto adds. Saito furrows his countenance as Mitsuomi circuit him and stops bald-headed inches from his larboard cheek. You see, I apperceive all about Konoha and others aggravating to apprentice aggregate about Yuzushio or our technology, he whispers. Then Danzo-sama will accept it, Saito comments. Mitsuomi titters as he lays on the desk. Oh, absolutely, and why is that, he asks. Saito furrows his countenance again. He is the Hokage, he says. And that entitles him to everything, Mitsuomi counters. Alfresco, Momoko and others watch in fascination. Like a spider with a fly, she says. Spider and fly, Saro asks. Momoko glances his way with a smirk. It's a story. A spider lures a fly into its backup little by little, but in his case he tells it different. In his case he is abundant above spider that instead of abrasion the prey, allows the casualty to abound fat and able of fresh attacks, she explains. Saito did his best to advance the training, but the shinobi is declining to the predator for him. I'm analytical as why Danzo would accelerate you, but to be honest I'm not, Mitsuomi muses and hops off the table. 5 years Konoha and others accept approved to access our borders, Kumo beatific 2 bolt units to analysis us, I beatific a back their active and a allowance captivated box, Danzo beatific 1-2 but they never returned, Mitsuomi adds, but a back straddles Saito. Do you apperceive why, Mitsuomi croons, staring into blank eyes, a back the allowance darkens and abundant eyes attainable in the shadows, because I accept eyes, everywhere, Mitsuomi coos. Saito flinches as the abundant eyes but is widen as he looks into his steel blue eyes, but the vampire tears into his throat, with the aboriginal growl. Sato's widen in abhorrence and screams as Mitsuomi drains his aspect but goes bending an avalanche from the chair. Mitsuomi stands with a claret active bottomward his button and assimilate his shirt. Ha, 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 a shitty snack, he hisses, wiping the claret from his mouth. Mitsuomi adjusts his tie, his clothes blot the claret on him as rips off Sato's arch and absorbs the remain. He places the arch on the lath and accomplish out with a glance to Momoko and her abashed officers. Kill the actual aggregation and accelerate the active aback on the baiter with the sheik, but covertly, Mitsuomi states. Yes sir, and may I say it's like watching balladry in motion, watching you breach prisoners, Momoko comments. Mitsuomi chuckles as he block on his sunglasses. I accept had years of practice, he says, crumbling into the shadows. The carrying arrives at the docks west alleged the anchorage of spring, breadth they accustomed but oral walking distance. The anchorage itself contains 2 cruiser chic ships in berth and added west 1 airship. The accumulation alight is a woman with affiliated atramentous beard and red eyes as cat and mouse, but aback the absolute Mitsuomi arrives. Acceptance the carbon to allay and appraises him. Taitaku booty at these are the emissaries from Konoha, the woman comments. The woman wears a white and atramentous Japanese appearance shirt with gold trim, a white pleated brim and beach thigh highs and white abate boots, with a white accoutrement draped on her shoulders, atramentous with gold trim bend breadth gloves and agile cap. I'd like you to accommodate at Nagato, one of our fleet's captains, Mitsuomi states. Nagato gives them a blunt nod but credibility to her face at Kiba, these ships attending actual avant-garde but agnosticism they exhausted Kumo or Kiri, Sakura comments. Our agile rivals if not surpasses Kumo and Kiri in agreement of acceleration, and our airships can accomplish trips to Suna in bisected the time of accustomed traveled, Nagato remarks, shutting up the blonde. You accept accord with Suna, Shikamaru asks and Mitsuomi nods. Hi, Suna was one of our aboriginal allies forth with Taki, Wave, T, and assorted countries, Mitsuomi replies. Shikamaru addendum this and stows it abroad for later. Are these the abandoned ships you accept or others on patrol, he asks. Nagato adjusts her cap with a glance to Mitsuomi and he nods. We currently accept 10 ships in our agile of cruiser-ed measurement like my own, with 1 carrier aeroplane allowable by Captain Onryu and 6 boner chic ships allowable by Captain Tenryu, she explains. Era is Taitoku and absolute our secrets, articulation comments. The group spies a woman with amber beard and blooming eyes, dressed agnate Nagato but has a pleated atramentous brim and white gloves. Mitsuomi turns with a bow and takes her gloved hand. Sorry Matsu, he says, kissing her hand. Matsu giggles as she interlocks her arm with Nagato. It's absolutely alright Taitoku-an, but I accept to abduct Nagato-chan for a campaign briefing, she says, and both alibi themselves. Mitsuomi turns to the accumulation with an amusing smile. Well, that concludes our tour, he says, and creates 2 clones. This one will escort you back to the address and my added carbon will escort him Yamanaka and Saya back to the hotel. Unfortunately I accept acute business to arise to, he says, and excuses himself. Piggy, are you absolutely gonna to breach here? Sakura says. Ino pinches the arch of her nose. I do because of Kiba's buffoonery, but this is absolutely a adequate thing. I can accretion their secrets, she says, hardly appeasing to get them off their aback, but could see the conniving looks on some their faces. The accumulation allotment means as Sasuke glares at the pair, you bigger do your jobs, he says. Please hunt me, I will advise you to the hotel. The bang-up will see you tomorrow, the carbon says, and they laugh the carriage. Inside Mitsuomi's home, an assertive albino starts to activate as Tsunade scrunches her face, aperture her honey eyes. The aloft Hokage boring sits up and the antecedent night's contest epitomize as she runs her fingers forth her neck. The curtains of the bed opens as a maid pokes her arch in. Ohio, or rather Kambawa Tsunade-san, she greets. She has dejected eyes and white hair. Dressed in a dejected and white maid uniform, Tsunade climbs from bed with a yawn and exposes her fangs, but her adenoids picks up some delectable. Mitsuomi-sama told me to appropriately augment you. It's so abstinent changeable 20 years old, she explains. Tsunade looks amid the canteen and the maid. Oh, I am one of Mitsuomi-sama's best able maids. She starts and grabs the abandon of her dress to curtsy. My name is Belfast, she greets. Tsunade boring nods and carefully picks up the glass. Once I revile blood, now I charge it to survive, she muses. Demography, a few sips. Already the claret touches her tongue. Her eyes amplify and Tsunade greedily drinks with a bendable beef as she finishes. A brace of accoutrements snake about her waist and Tsunade glance back to see Mitsuomi. How do you feel, he asks. Hungry, stronger, and I appetite you so badly, Tsunade replies, and Mitsuomi chuckles. Affair her lips. Tsunade moans into his draft with her larboard arm coil about his head. Mitsuomi's appropriate arm is about her waist and his larboard was abrasion her breast. I could fuck you into a coma, he coos. Tsunade block her argo in his aperture as his duke on her waist boring moves into her pants, but Belfast clears her throat. What Mitsuomi and Tsunade hiss. Have you abandoned your affair with Koyuki-sama? Belfast says. Mitsuomi groans in Tsunade's neck. I assumption will abide this later, she croons and saunters off. Mitsuomi cracks his abutting with a sniff. Oh yes, actual anon, I will accept my day, he muses into a twirl. Yuzukage Tower. Koyuki sits at ample table as the associates of the board accustomed for her affair apropos Naruto's accommodation to go to Konoha for Chunin exams and the Konoha visit. Tsunade sits on her larboard bubbler from a thermos which independent blood. Koyuki is abashed by Tsunade's accommodation, but both assured no abuse would arise to the bodies and it wouldn't affect her duties. The aboriginal to access were Momoko, Najenda, and Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga is a Laloft samurai from adamant country and aggressive genius, according to Hunt Mitsuomi afterwards seeing his accomplishment in battle. Mitsuomi anon arrives and takes his abode at Koyuki's right. I alarm this affair to order, she says. As you may accept heard from your own sources, but an accumulation from Konoha came, aggravating to able arm me into abiding to Konoha, Tsunade explains. Najenda sighs and glances to the blonde. That was actual base of them. They were additionally heavily fishing too, she notes. It is Najenda Taicho, but it afforded us a benefaction as the almsman of the Yamanaka Association for the month, Tsunade adds. The babyish board babble, but Oda laughs. I bet it you who pulled off that little ambush, Mitsuomi-kun, he says, and Mitsuomi nods with an eye smile. Hi, I played on their ego to face myself and 3 of the pillars in a duel, resulting in Ino blockage and Yuzushio for the ages until I leave for Chunin exams with our teams in Anko, but I additionally got one of Danzo's armament alleged, Sai Mitsuomi explains. Boss, do you anticipate it's adroit to bifold as Jonin sensei for the exams? Konoha will no agnosticism try to exact avengement for the slight with the allegorical class, Momoko states. Mitsuomi smiles carefully as he places his glasses on the table. Worry not, Momo. Alike admitting I am the Kage of Yuzushio, I am additionally a sensei. I owe it to my genin to see them through. Beside my appropriate duke will run the apple as my regent, he states. The doors attainable as Conan accomplishing with a bow. For demography, a bench in Mitsuomi's atom as he moves abaft Koyuki. Mitsuomi clears his throat as he moves Canyon Koyuki's chair. Esteemed associates of this babyish council, aback I took up the crimson of Yuzukage. I did it with an ambition and apperception, and allotment of that ambition is see Yuzushio acceleration from the ashes to become a major shinobi apple, the brand of the Big Five, he says. The board gasps and babble, but Mitsuomi after effects his duke to quiet them. However, to do that one charge aggrandize, and we have. Our technology surpasses some of the bristles and has been the allocution of abounding countries aback our rebirth. Abounding except approved to abduct our secrets and our allies, but our armament except exhausted them back, he states. The brand Kumo or Konoha adulation to bandy their weight around. Kumo is the best angry of the big bristles and their ally Konoha has won 3 shinobi wars, Oda says, but grins. However, a cornered abrasion can annihilate a cat, Oda adds. The accepted Hokage is a veteran of 2 of those wars. The accepted Raikage flexes his ability by addition Frost in Peach's country, hella like our allies about Nadeshiko and Taki, except noticed Kumo and Konoha armament about their borders, Najenda states. Then already chat alcove Kanoha of the ombudsman of a major association is in our country. What is to stop them from declaring war on us? Nobunaga-san Momoko states. Ino has been disowned, but they accumulate her to accept a adolescent if needed. As for war, I intend to do it first, Mitsuomi interjects, and anybody gasps in shock. Oda giggles carefully with an adverse glint in his eyes. Oh, the butcher of the Colosseum will rear his arch already again, he adds. Mitsuomi smirks as his face is covered by adumbration, but his aglow eyes are visible. One affair I've abstruse as abhorrence is the ultimate motivator. I intend to appearance Konoha and Kumo accurate fear, he says. Oda rears aback with an agrarian cackle. So aback can we see this war, he asks. Once the Chunin exams are over, I intend to declare war on Konoha and its allies, Mitsuomi says, and the allowance goes appalling bashful as they approve to booty in what was said. That seems like the best advance of actions. If Yuzushio is to survive again, Konoha and Kumo charge be brought to heel, both thrive on war and for peace to be achieved, both charge be stopped. Nagenda comments. Can we action a abounding scale war? Momoko says. Mitsuomi curtains the table with a smirk. Oh, but we can. Our agile surpasses Kumo. Our allies bound Hinokuni. I am in accord with Kiri and things are activity able-bodied for them to access into an accord with us, and I intend to accelerate emissaries to IWA afresh to try for a non-assailment pact or like an alliance. I accept adapted the seals surrounding the island, but this time, they will not fall, he said. Koyuki rises from her bench as does everyone. As daimyo of Yuzushio, I declare that already the Chunin exams are concluded. We will declare war on Konoha and all its allies, she declares. Mitsuomi places his duke on his affection and bows. It shall be done as you command, he declares. In the Arctic allocation of Yuzushio sits a Gothic appearance abbey, but not for holiness. It is abandoned, attainable by an appropriate allowance on the grounds. This abbey is the bastion of Yuzushio's aristocratic force led by their kage and the force that protects Yuzushio from the shadows. One affair anteroom holds an aerial ceiling. Abundant dejected blaze chandeliers and statues, but at its centermost sits a affiliated canteen table, with an affiliated atramentous centerline with 10 engraved chair. Bristles of the chairs were active by 3 women and 2 men. The aboriginal is a tall, admirable, and attenuate woman with affiliated ablaze dejected beard and dejected eyes, cutting an angry dress accoutrement with affiliated sleeves, a dejected bandage on her abutting and high-heel boots to her thighs. A bang on her chest of a Gothic cardinal one is on her larboard breast, an addition bang in the centermost of her chest. Things are assuredly starting to move, she thought. The additional is that alpine adolescent man with abbreviate atramentous beard and ablaze blah eyes, dressed in a avant-garde red Karuta Sashinuki appearance kota with red lacquered animate Han kota appearance quaint guards, fourth with red lacquered animate sunniate and hydate. Beneath the armor was a atramentous shitagi, yugake, and Hakama angry with a white himo and the bang of an 4 on his neck. The third is a adolescent woman with a blaze dejected beard and an annoying ponytail with affiliated strands of beard framing her face. Her accoutrements consists of a blooming dress with an affiliated larboard sleeve and an abbreviate appropriate one, a red turtleneck which has a white, creamy collar and amber gloves. Beneath the dress is a one allotment red clothing, and she wears calf-length amber sandal boots. On her acquaint is the bang of the Cardinal 5. I achievement Yukimaro ate his lunch, she thought. The fourth has a cigarette in his aperture and is an alpine bald-headed man with aphotic red eyes, but beneath his larboard eye is a cantankerous-shaped scar. He wore a atramentous anorak with a white shirt and red tie, knee aerial atramentous boots with red soles, a red belt with a gold buckle, white gloves with his cap accepting the Yuzushio Bakure insignia, the aftermost a anemic adorableness with short, ashen black beard that covers the larboard ancillary of her face and a arresting atramentous eye but scarring extending into a slight X-shape over the arch of her nose. As able-bodied as accepting askew and base tissue on her larboard ear, she wears a long, aphotic red dress with one long, advanced sleeve ambuscade her affected larboard arm. The edges of the collar and the aperture for the appropriate arm are gold-colored, and the aerial chest and larboard sleeve are busy with aureate designs. The appropriate ancillary of her dress is attainable from the hip down. Absolute atramentous pantyhose with a Gothic 2 on her thigh and atramentous and white boots with actual aerial heels and assorted buttons on anniversary side. These are bristles of the espada of Yuzushio, Cinder Fall, Toyohisa Shimazu, Durin, Hajime Sugoroku and his death. It's been a while back we were assembled, Toyohisa says. Hajime assaulta Beck smoke. About 10 months, he replies. Cinder after effects her Duke with a look. Why charge you smokin' here? You'll ruin my skin, she comments. You don't accuse a back, he smokes his death attempt in Guren size. Here we go, Guren muses. Cinder's eye encourages her Scara turns atramentus and she bears a set of fangs. Hush horse, she hisses. His death bears her own fangs as ice forms on her armchair and a barbarous beam forms. However, the door's attainable as Tsunade and Karasuba enter. Fighting already, Karasuba muses. Come now, Karasuba, it's abandoned accustomed that they fight. Cinder dislikes his death and carnality verse it and aerial articulation comments. Anybody turns to the arch armchair that is about 2 anxiety taller than the draft as amethyst brave colligiosity anatomy Mitsuomi. Masterous death and Cinder said. As the others booty their seats, Mitsuomi removes his affectation as a carbon enters into the allowance with assorted liquors. Greetings, my babyish espada. The time anon approaches a back our enemies will accomplish their moves, he states. Do you anticipate the Akatsuki will accomplish a move on Konoha? Hajime asks. Mitsuomi crosses his legs with a agitate of his head. Obito has spent the aftermost bristles years planning his return. I agnosticism he would decay it on Konoha, but we should be alert of it, he says. I heard from Killua that the pillars absolutely ashamed 4 associates of Konoha's allegorical class. Guren asks. Mitsuomi chuckles carefully with a nod. Karasuba and Killua did their affair and I got to abash an aloof adversary. Acceptance Ino Yamanaka to abide in Yuzushio for the month, he explains. So what's the plan apropos Konoha abnormally afterwards that incident? Hajime asks. Mitsuomi recrosses his legs and interlocks his fingers in his lap. I've taken accomplish on that front. Additionally accord Kiji, Inu, and Saro a little benefit for their accelerated work, he explains. Hajime boring nods as Mitsuomi glances to Toyohisa. As for Konoha, I will be branched there in a few weeks with Anko and our genin teams. Karasuba, Killua, Cinder and his death will bounce her Koyuki-sama day and night respectively. He starts and pauses. Because I wouldn't put it Canyon Danzo to try afresh already. He finds out I'm in Konoha, Toyohisa, and Guren Budia 3 squads to analysis Kumo's southern border, except Tenryu and Tatsuda or Kaga and Akaji accompany you. Hajime, I appetite you and your brother to go to IWA and analysis the Amnion afresh for an alliance. If he refuses, brandish the achievability of assuredly accepting animus on Konoha. Mitsuomi explains and Hajime nods. What shall I be doing? Tsunade asks and Mitsuomi runs his fingers forth his temple. Continue training your new abilities with me and accompany us as our citizen Mednin, he replies. I can animate with that, but I doubtable Konoha will assemblage the allowance to join our teams. They're all appalling, but I could advise my cool backbone to the ones with the best control. Tsunade adds. Mitsuomi rubs beneath his adenoids and chin. Perhaps Urza and Kagura or Yukimaru and Juvia, he said. Guren allowance is up at his name and Mitsuomi smirks. You charge not anguish Guren. Gray and Juvia will not let annihilation arise to him. He knows to cost if things go south, Mitsuomi assures. High Zero Guren replies. Mitsuomi removes his larboard cuff with his teeth to acknowledge a odd on his larboard hand. That reminds me, Tsunade has clearly taken her abode amid us as our trace and taken her abode in the night as well, he states. Tsunade moves her chaplet to acknowledge her breach marks and a 3 amid them as Cinder gives a aloof attending, but his death gives the albino an amused sneer. So the allegorical medic goes from extenuative lives to demography lives is death purrs. Tsunade leans advanced as her honey afterglow, but Mitsuomi bliss his legs on the table. I'd achieve bottom ward Estes. Tsunade is a accurate Draculina clashing you or Cinder, he states. Now my babyish espada we abide to adapt for our war and we remind those as Konoha their accurate abode in the apple and wake them from their grandiose dream. Mitsuomi adds. Anybody rises from their chairs except Tsunade, is death, and Cinder, but Hajime stops with a barbarous smirk. When the time comes. I appetite the one who angered my men, he says. Mitsuomi raises his canteen with a beam of his own. I attending advance to it, he says. Since they animate actuality at the Abbey, you've never met them but aback you now on the night it's time you did, Mitsuomi says and lights a cigarette with a beck of smoke. The aboriginal is Cinder abatement or rather Uchiha, he says and Tsunade's eyes widen. Itachi didn't annihilation our association alone, he had help. A man in a affectation calling himself Madara, but I afterwards abstruse from Mitsuomi-sama that he was Obito Uchiha, Cinder says and removes her mask. absolute her burns and abandoned eye socket. Despite actuality a vampire, I will accumulate my scars and missing arm, until the betrayer dies, Cinder adds. Lastly, his death is from the Arctic islands of Kiri and a master of Hayatan. She challenged me to action and I defeated her in absolutely the battle. She swore adherence to me and became a vampire absolutely readily, Mitsuomi states in Assault Edition. Beck of Smoke, now I charge to abuse you too for angry yet again, he muses. Mitsuomi walks through the apple angled his arch-anniversary passerby. His destination was the academy to see the newest sheik to Alam in a few months. He arrives at the academy in Cat and Mouse at the Abuado as an adolescent woman with atramentus beard and red eyes, cutting a dejected dress compatible with thigh-highs, captivated and abode by a accolade belt and a sailor's hat on her head. The woman smiles acquiescently as Mitsuomi takes her hand. Hello Yuzuki-sama, she greets. To you as able-bodied Takao, Mitsuomi replies. The brace access the academy and arch to the additional attic breadth. The sheik is waiting. I heard a carnal dog approved to ogle my sister, Takao asks. Mitsuomi glances her way with a nod. He will be dealt with in due time, he replies. Takao opens the aperture as the sheik quiets bottom ward, but the sheik is absolutely babyish and holds abandoned a few students. The Fubuki sisters sit abutting to anniversary at it, chatting away. To their larboard were orphans he adored from Konoha. A Fordanzo could get his easily on them. Mitsuomi accomplish in and anybody rises from their seats. Welcome Yuzuki-sama, they greet. Hello you as able-bodied future Yuzushioga-Kure shinobi and kunoichi, Mitsuomi says and pulls a armchair from the desk. Block off his arroyo accoutrement and agreement at bottom ward in demography a seat. Now I came today to accurate my congratulations on accidental and actual anon abutting our ranks as genin. You've arisen affiliated way in your training from Iwabi's Doton, Namada's sonic cries. Wasabi's Niko Ninjutsu, Sumayor's Sueton is able-bodied as Akatsuki, Hibiki, Izukuchi and Inazuma with their different skills. You fabricated anybody alike, adult Koyuki proud, Mitsuomi states, and anybody claps. Now does anyone accept any questions for Yuzuki-sama, Takao asks. Wasabi raises his hand. Yuzuki-sama, will big sister Urza be in the Chunin exams, she asks. Mitsuomi tilts his arch hardly but nods. She will be, and she possibly could be a Chunin, he says. Yuzuki's Jiji, Iwabi says, and Mitsuomi's countenance twitch. Yes, Iwabi, Mitsuomi replies. Iwabi tosses a kunai, but Mitsuomi catches it and tosses it back faster, but Iwabi ducks. Good allocution, Iwabi, Mitsuomi says, and the sheik action loudly. Infuriating Iwabi. Hawawawa Samayer, Namaida, and Inazuma shout. Mitsuomi stifles his amusement but stops as Takao glares at him. Anyway, any added questions, he asks. Yuzuki-sama is accurate, you've been abrogation in a month, Samayer asks. Mitsuomi boring nods with a bendable smile. Hi, I am Jonin sensei of Urza, Kagura, and Ayasu, but do not abhorrence Conan will be actuality in my stead, he replies and rises, anatoming his seat. Now I charge, be going. Akage's assignment is never done, he says and excuses himself. Mitsuomi alcove the alfresco the academy abaca atramentus acreage on his shoulder. Hi, accept them accumulated in my appointment room, he say, and it flies off. Mitsuomi shunshins to the Kage belfry and fabricated his way to the allowance in question. A aperture the aperture and anybody central rises from their seats. Thank you for advancing on abbreviate notice, Mitsuomi greets. Nagato and Mutsu were continuing at the arch of the table, but to the left, to the appropriate of the arch armchair, was that alpine woman with affiliated white beard and red eyes. The woman is dressed in white with atramentus trim sweater dress with atramentus shorts, with white and atramentus boots. Mitsuomi takes a few accomplished but article grabs his pants leg. Attractive bottom ward her sees a little babe with white beard and red eyes. The babe is dressed in a sleeveless white dress, white mittens and barefoot. Mitsuomi anon picks her up with a blithe look. Hapu-chan, he chirps, adhering her. Hapu hugs him aback as he active to the arch of the table. Thanks for bringing her Heim, Mitsuomi says. Heim blushes and nods as she takes her bench with anybody else. Aratitoku in your authoritative, Nagato anxious with Hapu-chan, Mutsu says, and Nagato glares. Fufufu, I gotta agree, Tenryo comments. Tenryo has an eye patch over her larboard eye with abbreviate amethyst beard, dressed in a cardigan over a academy compatible with a necktie and thigh highs. Abutting to her is sister/lover Tatsuda, additionally with amethyst beard but amethyst eyes clashing Tenryu's yellow. Tatsuda wears a jumpsuit academy compatible with a brim and amber flats, Above from them were the sisters Kaga and Akagi dressed Agnate but Akagi with red and Kaga blue. Opposite Mitsuomi is Unryo, an administrator of their aeroplane fleet. Unryo has blousy white silver beard to her knees but braided, dressed in white top with bluish amateur and gold designs, a brim with Agnate colors with blooming stockings into white-heeled boots. Is it accurate, Taidaku, that Konoha has fabricated contact? Tatsuta asks. Mitsuomi places Hapu in Haim's lap. Yes it is. Konoha beatific their allegorical chic to alarm us into handing over Tsunade, but they were foiled, he explains. Matsu unfurls a map of the breadth as Mitsuomi stands and she easily him an extendable pointer. Now as it stands our agile has ascendancy of our little breadth of the Chijiri Sea, but we accept letters of Kumo ships advancing abutting to our borders, he explains. I exceed they are accepting bold, no agnosticism, the rakage is attractive to advance his ships with our technology, Tenrya comments. No agnosticism, which why I appetite you and Tatsuda to booty Toyo Hisa, Gurin, and 3 squads to analysis their southern shores, Mitsuomi states. Tenrya cool and Tatsuda giggles. You got it, Taidaku, she says. Mitsuomi sits a back bottomward with a point to Kumo itself. Let me be the aboriginal to acquaint you. Koyuki-sama has agreed to go to war with Konoha and Kumo. Authoritative Kumo, our aboriginal target, he says in curtains Kumogakure. Due to Kumogakure's elevation, our aeroplane corp will be vital. Unrya Taicho I appetite the Kuryu able for combat, he states. Of advanced Taidaku, our time frame, Unryo asks, and Mitsuomi holds 2 fingers. 2 months, the prelims are in 1 ages and finals edition month. Already the Chunin exams are concluded. Our battles begin, Mitsuomi replies. Also I would like to accelerate the Aki no Shur to Suna with the Kiroi Senko on standby actuality to avert the capital, Mitsuomi continues and glances to Haim. I would like your Abysmal squads to action any Kumo ships that may blitz our borders. Already the advance commences and if accessible advance added and advance their dockyards to attenuate their ships, he adds. Haim boring nods but Hapu stands on the table. I want to bore ships too, she says. Mitsuomi ruffles her beard with a smirk. You'll accept to get big first, he says. Anybody action as Hapu pouts and plops in his lap. Now I would like accelerate the chat out to Yamato and her agile to set up arresting formations to abutment the Kiroi Senko, Mitsuomi states. Of advanced Taidokun, I'm abiding Musashi and Bismarck while attending advance to a battle, Matsu states. Mitsuomi places Hapu back in Haim's lap. Alright, that is all, he says and rises from his seat, as does anybody to salute. Mitsuomi accomplish out and finds Ino aptitude on the wall. Were you listening, he asks. What are they? Ino asks, an avalanche footfall with him. Mitsuomi cup his button and thought, they accept existed far best than we know. The sage of 6 paths encountered them and closed them abroad, but I begin them and kept them safe, he explains. So they predate alike, the sage, Ino says, and Naruto nods. Seems so, they are ships accustomed activity and protectors of the sea, Mitsuomi says. That is interesting, Ino says and sighs, changing the subject. Breath is sigh. I didn't see her this morning, she adds. She came to me after most night to chargeless herself from Danzo taint. She'll be animate tonight, Mitsuomi says, and Ino stops in her tracks. Why would she do that? Ino says. She didn't appetite to accompany abuse to you. She was abashed Danzo would adjustment her to abuse you, so she begin a way to chargeless herself from the orders that would come, Mitsuomi explains. I see, Ino whispers. You should apperceive that Konoha will to pay for their betrayals. Chief amid them is Jiraiya, Mitsuomi explains. To anticipate he'd go so far as affected his afterlife a joint pain. Naruto was so devastated by this, Ino states. Mitsuomi opens the aperture to his appointment and holds the aperture attainable for her. Jiraiya is annihilation added that a leech. He was anxious of Orochimaru's accomplishment and Dan's adulation for Tsunade. He's lived off of the Yondaime and Naruto's successes. However, already he know best serves to augment his ego. He was casting a breast like yesterday's underwear, he states. Demography a bench and slight scowl Zeno's face. The brace a non-abatement into blackout as Mitsuomi looks over his assorted paperwork, but the aperture opens as his 3 genin enter. The 3 bow and booty a bench on the sofa. How can I advise you, my kawaii genin? Mitsuomi asks. Miss Yamanaka, what can we apprehend in the exam? Urza asks. Blank Mitsuomi, and he puffs his cheeks. Ino anticipation for a moment, but a slight draft escapes her lips. First you can alarm me, Ino. As for your question, apprehend the accoutremple adjoin you. The aboriginal allotment is a written test. The additional is survival in the backwoods of afterlife and the final's a tournament, she explains. Konoha would go to those lengths, Kagura asks. Mitsuomi blaze up a cigarette with a laugh. They would. Konoha wants to flaunt themselves, apprehend them to ambition. You and Grace team already chat alcove them about their failure, he says, and all three nod. Mitsu and I will my new gauntlets be ready, Ayasu asks, and Mitsuomi nods, but he sees Ino's channeled brow. They are agnate to Dodo's chakra armor but added streamline. I'm Sakura or Naruto told you about their mission to Snow, Mitsuomi says. Ino boring nods but glances to Urza. Are you additionally accompanying to Karen, Naruto and Tsunade-sama, she asks. Hi, through my grandparents, Urza replies. After the abatement of Yuzushio, her grandparents hid themselves for several years. Urza's mother was built in the Land of Moon but was kidnapped and taken to Hozuki prison. One of the guards got her abundant in Bang Urza was born, Mitsuomi explains. I lived in the Bastille about all my activity until Nitsune-sama began me and absolved me, Urza says. Kagura's eyes animation with adulation for Urza. Nesama is so cool, she anticipation but gasps. Seeing the Cheshire beam on Mitsuomi's face, he picks up a anil and tosses it to Kagura. I accept a C-rank mission for you three, Mitsuomi says, and all three breeze to attention. You are to contact the actual pillars. I appetite them to accumulate actuality in 2 weeks' time, he says. Hi Mitsuomi, they says and alibi themselves. Ino turns to him with an angled eyebrow. Are they not in the village, she asks, and Mitsuomi all overs his head. They are broadcast throughout Yuzushio, defending her borders, Mitsuomi explains. I see. Has Kumo fabricated any moves added than testing your borders, Ino asks. Mitsuomi puts out his cigarette with an animation of smoke. They approved cheating a volt aggregation in but that promptly bootless as did IWA and Konoha, he explains. What of Kiri or the added nations, Ino asks. I've been in advice with Kiri on an accessible accord and the Godame has been affable with us as for the abate nations, annihilation added than ambassadors, Mitsuomi adds. I'm curious. How abounding of your chic except absolutely kept up their training. Your chakra levels are absolutely high, Mitsuomi asks, and Ino anticipation for moment. Well, afterwards my parents pushed me aside. I threw myself into training and broadcast my skills. However, amid my class, Shikamaru is lazy, Choji is Choji, Shino is backstairs about things, Niji keeps up his training as does Lee, Tenten relies on her weapons, Sakura is a decay of a kunoichi and follows Sasuke. All her aptitude Ashin and Kiba is carnal dog, Ino explains. I achievement edition puts him in his place, he's been sniffing me a little too abundant lately. I acceptance my parents may assurance me off to him or Sasuke, Ino comments, as they abatement into blackout already again. Gift of Spring Hospital. Tsunade sits in her appointment accounts several medical letters as her aperture opens and Shizen enters with Taunton. She wears an abbreviate atramentus bathrobe with one sleeve missing to appearance her cobweb undershirt. I accept the rounds report, Shizen says. Boogie boogie, Taunton adds. Just put them on the desk, Tsunade says, and Shizen sees the chaplet about the blonde's neck. So how does it feel, Shizen says. Demography is seat. Tsunade places the certificate bottomward in anticipation for a moment. To be Hanset, I feel added animate like this why you appetite Mitsuomi to about face you too, she says. And no, I was aloof curious, Shizen says, and Tsunade carefully asks. A beating at the aperture echoes and Ino pokes her archin. Hello Tsunade-sama, Shizen-sama, she says. Shizen rises from her laugh and hugs Ino. Sorry I didn't get to see you earlier, Shizen says. That's fine, I'm accepting to see you know. Oh, what cost Taunton, Ino says, and the pig oinks. Ino, acquaint me except you affiliated belief your Iriojutsu or has Danzo adapted it to nothing, Tsunade asks. I advise out at the hospital sometimes but it's not accomplished in the academy or relied aloft by most, Ino explains, and Tsunade bites her nail. Those fools, deaths could be cut bottomward with shinobi accepting a committed ability of Iriojutsu but that abuse Warhawk, Tsunade comments and looks to her adolescent blonde. Well, aback you or actuality I'll advise you the obtrusive my cool strength. As for Konoha, able-bodied they'll anticipate your accepting my abilities for them, Tsunade explains and Ino nods. Good, Tsunade states, but her face becomes serious. Ino, what I'm about to say cannot and will not leave this room, she adds. Ino stares with a austere attending as Tsunade laces her fingers beneath her chin. Do you adulation Naruto, she asks. They say absence makes the affection abound fonder. I'll accept I did advance a drove on Naruto. He avenged Asuma-sensei's life. he adored my life, he adored the village. As time went on I can say, I adulation Naruto Uzumaki. Ino replies, Tsunade's appearance abate and a smile forms. Then I can assurance you with it then, she says, and Ino is confused. I accept Naruto's abiogenetic actual hidden abroad in Konoha. Tsunade states. Ino's babyish dejected orbs widen and tears form. Then I could have Naruto's child, she says. Yes, if you like. Aback I became Hokage. I gave him a complete concrete and aback his beheading was decided. I'm animated I absolutely to do this, Tsunade says, sadly. Ino grasped Tsunade's hand. Tsunade-sama, you've accustomed me the greatest allowance I could ask for. Adventitious to accord Naruto an active legacy, she says. Thank you, Ino. Tsunade states. The aperture opens as Karen pokes her arch in. It's time for rounds, she says. Thank you, Karen. Ino, you can abide actuality or analyze the village, Tsunade states. Ino rises and hugs Tsunade. I'll analyze and acknowledge you so abundant, Tsunade-sama. See you backward, Shizen-sama. Tantan, she says and excuses herself. Ino Anan admires the architect of Yuzushiyogakure and it seems like a abundant abode to live. Bodies were affectionate and accost one another. Children were active about arena ninja and added aggravating to actor Mitsuomi with his odd poses. However, Arena advanced of her makes the aloft umsman abeyance and gasp. Not far from her is Gray in the attic, but cutting underwear and Juvia giving hunt with hearts in her eyes. Forthwith Yukamaro captivation his clothes. Ino all overs her arch and continues on until she happens aloft the Fubuki sisters. Hello, she greets. Hello, all of them say. Akatsuki stares at Ino for a moment but turns her sisters. You see this abounding fledged lady, she states. Ino carefully giggles but clears her throat. So breath are you for off to, she asks. We're activity to Mamiya's for lunch. Would you like to accompany us, Hibiki states and Ino agrees. 2 weeks except anesthetized aback Ino and Sai came to Yuzushiya when the time was able-bodied spent for both. Ino has been training with Tsunade and Shizun. It has been advantageous actual after effects as she added Tsunade's cool backbone to her skill set, while Sai got used to actuality of vampire. Training with Mitsuomi and alike authoritative accompany with Tenryu, Sai begin the eye patch cutting argosy captain absolutely aberrant and fun to adhere around. Tenryu took her a few patrols. Acceptance the Baron vampire to analyze her amusement of cartoon and painting. Mitsuomi told her she know best bear to action and could focus on her hobby. Article Ino agreed with and Sai took it to heart. Ino currently is sitting in Mamiya's with a birthmark Sunday. Hello, Ino-san, articulation says, and the albino looks up to see Matsu. Hello, Matsu, Ino says. The brace accept become fast at company as they allege about assorted things from appearance to admired foods. Meanwhile, Killua, Karasuba, Yum, Anko, and Musubi were watching Mitsuomi and Tsunade sparring in the pit. She has dead him 4 times. None of us except done that saved you or the Espada. Seems she's becoming her place, Killua comments. Accidental to Karasuba, the bedraggled albino had a austere attending on her face and her eyes absolutely open. Oh, I wouldn't apperception adverse Tsunade in a austere action aloof for grins, she muses. Tsunade-sama is the arch of the Sannin and now that she's a vampire, makes her alike stronger. Anko comments. Mama will the appealing adult with the dejected eyes be staying, Musubi says. Yum accoutrement her babe in her arms, that is her best, but I feel Ino-san may accompany us, she replies. Achievement she could become a pillar. The Yamanaka apperception techniques are powerful. Agenda states. Approaching, Mitsuomi's arch sails out of the pit and followed by his anatomy authoritative a one-handed catch. Tsunade leaps out abutting with a clean of her forehead. Thanks for the workout, she says. Happy to oblige, Mitsuomi says, his articulation adulterated as he snaps his arch back in place. Atramentus acreage on Mitsuomi's except with a caw and assimilates with his body. He says and erupts into a bedrock of ravens. Killua all overs his arch with a laugh. Conan charge be attractive for him to do his paperwork, he says, and the others laugh. I am Conan says, landing abreast Yum. Musubi gets bottomward to hug the earlier woman but Tsunade spies Mitsuomi ambuscade in the colligiosity and a beam forms. Conan to your left, she says. The adumbration tenses as Conan's amber orbs lock on him. We accept things to do or shall I sick Mia on you, she says, and aback Mitsuomi was at her side. Conan pulls Mitsuomi forth as he whines like a dog. The captains accept assembled, she says, already out of ear attempt of anybody and his animate dejected orbs glint with a grin. Yuzukage Tower. The affection in the appointment anteroom is accustomed as the pillars accumulate with an ample table and abundant chairs. Absolutely agnate to the espada, Killua sits cutting a ice dejected dress shirt and tie with his accoutrement draped on his chair. Abaft him was his LT and best acquaintance Gon Freaks. Gon has affiliated annoying black-green angled beard and large, chestnut-amber eyes and dressed in a blooming anorak with brownish edges accoutrement atramentus or white catch basin top underneath, blooming accountability shorts in green, applique-up boots with blas arroyo coat. Najenda arrives abutting with her Lieutenant Akame, who dresses herself in an aphotic sleeveless mini-dress with a white collar and a red tie, a red belt that has a red ancillary brim cover. Akame wears it with affiliated atramentus socks and atramentus shoes, additionally wears red gauntlets and atramentus gloves with her arroyo coat. Trailing abaft them is Tatsumi and his wife Mine, him dressed in a abounding blah three-piece suit, his wife cutting blush outfit, consisting of an angry capote with a aerial collar, a blush-affiliated sleeve shirt, a clothes and atramentus stockings with blush shoes and his accoutrement draped on her shoulders. Shizuka and Tokiwa access abutting followed Anko, Yakumo, and Isaribi. My captain won't be coming, as she said and I quote, animate during the day as a hassle states Lieutenant Kurome, an adolescent sister of Akame. Kurome wears a atramentus sailor compatible and wears a red belt that has a red ancillary brim cover, with affiliated socks and flats with her coat. That shouldn't be a excuse, Naruto-sama comes during the day, Yakumo comments. What can I say, Kurome says, demography her seat. I accede with Kurome, hell Mitsuomi wouldn't be apparent during the day, unless it's important. Anko comments. Trailing abaft Karasuba is her Lieutenant Bennett Tsubasa, dressed in a kimono-like shirt with one sleeve missing and her blush beard in an ancillary ponytail with two daisy clips. Yuma's abaft them with her additional in command and bedmate of the wind Kazahana. Kazahana has affiliated amethyst beard and an abbreviate amethyst Chinese dress which shows her breech and abdomen button, captivation a ample account bottle. Fufufu, it's been so affiliated aback we've gathered. I abundant rather be animate up in the accoutrements of our Satecho. Kazahana comments but freezes as a Hanya affectation forms behind. The buyer of this bump is a Samamiya and abutting to her is her Lieutenant Hamura. Mia has affiliated a blaze amethyst beard to her waist with beneath bangs and a heimcut, dressed in a agnate accoutrements to Karasuba. Hamura has blousy argent beard and dressed her in atramentus slacks, white shirt and atramentus tie with her blas arroyo coat. Is anybody assembled? Conan comments, as every rises to their feet. Mitsuomi accomplish in a abounding white three allotment clothing with a sky dejected dress shirt and atramentus gloves. 1,000 acknowledge yous for advancing so quickly, he says. Demography his bench at the arch of the table. So why the abbreviate apprehension? So Tatsumi asks. Mitsuomi leans advanced with his elbows on the table. As you apperceive, Anko and I will be branched to Konoha for the Chunin and abide there the abutting 2 months, he says, and all of them nod. Mitsuomi afresh leans aback in his armchair as a adumbration covers his face and leaves his aglow orbs. However, the acumen I alleged is to acquaint you. I'm declaring war on Kumo and Konoha afterwards. That, he adds. Blackout fills the allowance as Mitsuomi crosses his legs. I apperceive some of you are abashed, but this has been an affiliated time coming, he says. I agree. Ever aback the about face of Yuzushio, a war with Edition Nation was to come. Kumo and Konoha are the best warmongering of the big five. Both appetite our technology and will sack this country to do it. So it is adroit to strike them now, Karasuba states. To apperceive you adversary is to apperceive yourself and you will win 100 battled. Mia comments and looks to Mitsuomi. Correct, Satecho, she adds. Mitsuomi carefully scoffs with a smile. Correct. Thanks to my busy network, I accept abstruse abundant in these canyon few years. Which why Kumo is our aboriginal target. Kumo is the best aggressive apple of the five. Their agile rivals carry an agreement of numbers and the apple is anchored in the mountains. Authoritative advance on the arena apathetic going, he explains. How will we advance Kumo? Their armament would be abiding in and accept the aerial arena due to the elevation, Tatsumi states. Mitsuomi curtains the table with a grin. Our aeroplane the Kiryu will rain blaze and thunder from the sky, bombarding the apple itself and acceptance our arena armament to defend it a beachhead, Haim and her forces. Akagi, Kaga, Tenryu and Tetsuda will advance the ships and argosy yards, he explains. Who will advance our arena armament? Already our agile crushes the yards, Abundance asks. Mitsuomi credibility to Nagenda. Nagenda will be commander, fourth with your squad. Additionally, Toyohisa, Durin, and Hajime will be accompanying you as well, he explains. Once the bombardment commences, Tsunade and myself will be the vanguard, while Karasuba, Miya, and Yum's squads will action to the main gate. His Deatha's armament will blooper in during the night and defended the Abuado to attainable during the panic. Konan and the actual pillars and Espada will assure Yuzushio and adult Koyuki. Naruto states, won't Konoha or Blaze Daimyo accelerate forces? Already chat spreads that Kumo is beneath attack. Isarabi asks, not necessarily. I've contacted Teki and our allies on the bound, but I'll accelerate the butt of my squad. Mitsuomi states. Anko and Karasuba laugh. Then we got annihilation to fear. Your band is overkill anywhere, Anko states. Mitsuomi chuckles an alcove in his belong and tosses 7 pictures on the table. These are a capital targets. Darui of the Atramentus Lightning and his accomplice Shi, Unruly Ei the accepted Rakage and his secretary Mabui, and don't let the affected attending fool ya. Secondary targets are Samui, Karui and Omoi. Capital targets animate if possible, dead if necessary, he states. Secondary Nia asks and Mitsuomi tap his ashes. Alive, if there are not any more questions, I alarm this captain's affair a close, Mitsuomi states. The captain's acceleration from their seats and alibi themselves as Mitsuomi allotment to his seat, for snapping his fingers. The breath abaft him shimmers and shatters to acknowledge Ino, questions Mitsuomi muses. What did they beggarly? Your band is overkill anywhere, Ino says, and Mitsuomi grins. Konan is the abandoned active affiliate of my squad, the actual associates are my familiars. Annihilation abbreviative complete abolition will stop them, Mitsuomi explains. Mitsuomi, I ambition to accompany Yuzushio, Ino says, and Mitsuomi furrows his brow. I doubtable Sasuke or Kiba to go to my parents, she adds. Mitsuomi swivels his armchair to face her. I accept no issues with it, he says. Thank you, I can alike advice actualize a TNI analysis agne to Konoha, Ino says. That sounds like an adequate idea. Why don't we go to Mamiya's and altercate it, Mitsuomi says, but Konan grabs his collar. No, you accept paperwork and no adumbration clones, Konan chides and pulls him forth as Ino laughs. Kanahagakure. It was a banderole day for Kanahagakure as the Chunin exams were already afresh captivated in Konoha, abounding civilians and shinobi appetite to prove already afresh they were aloft to every added nation, the assorted genin of Suna, Kumo, Iwa, Kiri, and several of 8 nations access, but the allocution was the activation of Yuzushio. Abounding scoffed at the island nation due their new daimyo Koyuki Kazahana, whom had assured no Konoha shinobi or Hinokuni citizens were accustomed in her aloft country of snow. This aloft the ire for abounding of Konoha and the ability of the aftermost Senju and the awkward adventure in her retrieval had abandoned alofted more. However, the account the Yuzukage had threatened the aftermost Uchiha acquired their ire to ability a baking point, abounding on the board alleged for an actual aggression of Yuzushio for the slight, but Danzo relayed the intentions of Ino to accumulate their secrets, agreeable abounding and their ire cooled. A agent from the Yuzukage beatific Tsunade's addendum on their medical program, which abounding Konoha doctors downplayed due to the source. Konoha's board absolved the advice on Yuzushio's argosy force but salivated over accepting their airships. Abounding of the men on the board were salivating on the anticipation of Kiba's address of abounding admirable women accomplished for the demography and Niji's address of no umbu or shinobi patrolling the apple but simple police. Danzo had already set in motion a plan to abduction the genin during the Aegis breach and alter them as sleeper agents as able-bodied as assassinate Anko, Shizune, and Tsunade. Music, Katekyo Hitman Reborn OST, The Guardians, 10 years later, Loop. Some of the allegorical Shi came to accost the Yuzu accumulation but abandoned to aristocrat over the genin. The complete of Hooves affair the arena alpha to accumulate everyone's attention, as in the ambit is of affiliated Atramentus carrying with 6 red-eyed horses affairs it. Some bodies backfire in abhorrence because all 6 except 8 red eyes allotment with shockingly no driver. However, the horses arise to arrest for the Abuado with adorable neighs. Izumo and Kotetsu carefully footfall arise the carrying but arrest as the aperture swings attainable and accomplish unfold. The aboriginal to footfall out is Anko and her pillars compatible and a blah abuse belong beneath her coat. Her aggregation of Juvia, Gray and Yukimura footfall out abutting with Gray putting his shirt back on but abounding see the Yuzushiogakure attribute tattooed on his chest, Urza and Kagura footfall out, followed by Ieyasu dressed in Atramentus cargos with action boots, aerial collar and hooded belong with his new gauntlets on his arms. They don't attending tough Kiba sneers, abounding shinobi and civilians draft as Tsunade accomplish out, dressed in accepted Konoha Jonin accoutrements but aggregate Atramentus and blah with Atramentus gloves on her easily and a Yuzushiogakure Hitayate on her forehead. However they draft added a back Ino accomplish out with an Yuzu Hitayatesh on her forehead as well. What the hell Piggy, Sakura shouts but Ino ignores her, for all of them stood at absorption as a argent-angled Cossack touches the aboriginal step. Mitsuomi accomplish out in all his celebrity with a white three-piece clothing with Atramentus dress shirt and white tie, and a bait-breadth clothing Arroyo accoutrement draped on his amateur with a brace of dejected brave sunglasses accoutrement his steel blue orbs and a cigarette blind from his mouth. Anybody avalanche in footfall as Mitsuomi seems to coasterize them, his accomplish August but accidental as the carrying explodes into white doves to the shock abounding of those gathered. Song ends. Name and purpose of visit Kotetsu states, Mitsuomi slides the Chunin essay forms above the desk, Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kariyu, Shodame Yuzukage of Yuzushiogakure and Jonin Sensei of Kagura Maikazuchi, Ieyasu date and Urza Scarlet he says, Mitsu Nii. I would like permission to use our association name Urza says, Mitsuomi slaps his temple with a agitative head, of course, correction Urza Uzumaki he corrects, several bodies babble and gasp, is she accompanying to the demon, it can't be, maybe she accompanying to the Red Death several whisper. Anko tosses her affidavit on Tbilath with a grin, Anko Midarashi, Jonin of Yuzushiogakure and Sensei of Juvia Luxor, Grey Fullbuster, and Yukimura no surname, she crows and Tsunade tosses chastening as well. Tsunade Senju, Jonin of Yuzushiogakure Tsunade states, Ino Yamanaka, Jonin of Yuzushiogakure Ino says, casting her Konoha chaplet to them, Izumo and Kotetsu bisected blaze at Anko and Tsunade but brand their papers. The Burning Leaf has been appointed as lodgings for the durations of the exams. The Aboriginal Annular starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow at the Academy 3rd floor Izumo states. Handing them a map, Mitsuomi stares at the map with a puzzled look. Don't you beggarly 7 a.m. my friend, he says in cool with his glasses angled down. Yes, I'm sorry Izumo stutters. Mitsuomi adjusts his glasses and strikes a JoJo pose. Come my comrades. Let us adventure into the archapel of Tbi elemental nations he declares. Izumo and Kotetsu watch them access the village, informed Danzo-sama. Kotetsu whispers, Sakura bound bolt up the Yuzu group. Piggy what are you doing? Sakura says, bisected screeches. Ino turns with a draft and agitate of her head. I've absolutely to accomplish a change. Aristocrat Kariyu was accommodating abundant to acquiesce me to accompany his country in ninja forces she says. For afterward the others in abrogation Sakura stunned. The accumulation alcove the Burning Leaf as a wolf affectation Umbu drops bottomward for them, Lord Yuzukage. Hokage-sama wishes to accommodate you in actuality and Yamanaka she states. Well who am I to decline Mitsuomi says and turns to Tsunade. Get anybody arrested and settled, I'll be forth shortly he says with a quick beak of her aperture but Tsunade pulls into a abysmal kiss but attainable abundant to see their tongues bouncing about one another. That should authority me Tsunade purrs, Mitsuomi winks with a smirk, quite he says, sunshining with the Umbu followed by Ino. Council room. Danzo knew the moment account accomplished him of the Yuzukage's arrival. The Blaze Adumbration alleged the board inabstively to Aboriginals seek an accord to accumulate their technology. However, if that failed, access the whelp and alter the genin as sleepers to annihilate him, Tsunade and Anko. However, the account of Ino's alienation to Yuzushio added her name to the hit list and he advised Cyan adequate lost. Okami opens the aperture and bows deeply. Hokage-sama, I accept brought the Yuzukage and his companions she states. Mitsuomi accomplishing with his accoutrement flapping. Greetings aristocrat Hokage and admired board it seems he says. Remove your glasses in our presence one merchant sneers, several on the shinobi ancillary of the board capital to cycle their eyes but Mitsuomi carefully laughs, apologizes, my eyes are somewhat sensitive he says and removes his glasses. Mitsuomi blocked them into his accoutrement with a convincing smile. My name is Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kariyu, Shodame Yuzukage he says, The antecedent thoughts of the board were assorted to shock by some at the looks of Mitsuomi, to backbiting by a few women and men present, to assertive he was too boyish attractive to be a Kage. Danzo rises from his bench with an appeasing look, on behalf of Konoha and its people. Welcome Yuzukage-san and your Jonin and Genin to Konoha for the Chunin exams, he states. Thank you actual abundant Hokage-sama, and if I'm not actuality too forward, can I ask why I was asked to accommodated you so suddenly? Mitsuomi asks. Koharu accomplish advanced and Mitsuomi gives a slight bow to be nice. We acquainted it was necessary, it's attenuate or absolutely aberrant that a Kage would act as Jonin sensei, she states. Well, that is because, of all our Jonin save Anko-san were not able at the moment and I alone acquainted the charge to advance the new generation, Mitsuomi says. Some on the shinobi ancillary and the elders could accept that angle, but Danzo clears his throat. Yuzukage-san. The capital acumen I asked to see you so actively was to altercate at accessible reopen of an accord amid our countries, he says. Mitsuomi places his easily abaft his back. An accord that was abandoned in our hour of greatest need, he says, in Danzo charcoal being faced. We were artlessly too backward to save Yuzushio. Admitting that sounds harsh, it was abundant draft to us, Koharu placates. Mitsuomi adjusts one of his gloves. That may be accurate, but rumors do fly and that makes me cautious. Aback I rebuilt Yuzushio and accessed the citizens of Snow Country to our nation. I affiliated some of the antipathy from our daimyo Koyuki Kazahana, and it stems from the afterlife of Naruto Uzumaki, adolescent Uzumaki, he states. That demon deserves to die. It was a menace, Mabuki Haruno shouts but gasps as Mitsuomi pins his steel blue orbs on her. Yet Naruto-sen garnered a bounding of the alliances, which Konoha absent afterwards his death. However, you acquired Kyumo as an ally. As for Ino-san, are shinobi not accustomed to abandon by their own choice, Naruto says, and some of the board mentally curse, giving the ninja choice. How can you do this, Ino? Inoichi says. I can do this because Konoha dishonors Naruto, he is addition I cared about, yet anybody sees not as addition who cared an amazing accountability but as some array monster, Ino says, seeing a bounding on the board audacious at her, but she didn't care. Putting abreast this affair for the moment, Konoha can be a admired ally already again. We can action barter appurtenances and abounding added things of Hinokuni. Konoha has such a affluent heritage, Hamura comments. Mitsuomi rubs his button in anticipation for a moment. I apologize, but that is artlessly not abundant to accumulate an accord with us. We can accretion such from our added allies, he says. Then conceivably in exchange, such as our Apple allowance to advance your Ninja Academy curriculum, Koharu offers, but Mitsuomi smiles. Tempting, but absolutely. You heard from your allegorical sheik about our academy, he notes. Then your medical program, Mabuki says. Mitsuomi stares at the mother of the Banshee. We accept two of the greatest medics animate for our medical program, your daughters Aloth sensei and senpai, he states, and Mabuki glares. Danzo stares at Mitsuomi with an artful eye. He is absolutely clever. A blunt and abridged acknowledgement to every offered, Danzo thought. Mitsuomi alcove in his clothing belong and tosses a annal to Danzo. That is for Sai, if you're accommodating to offer, afresh you can sell, central is a best acceptable action for her. She is absolutely the artisan and she'll accomplish aback what I am advantageous for her, Mitsuomi says. Yuzukage Denka, absolutely, you can see the allowances of an accord with us. Not abandoned to adverse abrupt enemies whom lurks in the colligiosity but the Akatsuki as well. We can be a force to angle aloft all the shinobi nations, and our accumulated ability would accumulate any nations from attacking states, a merchant alleged Ashitaka. Arresting the accessory standoff. I see, afresh I will allege to Koyuki-sama about this, Mitsuomi says and block on his glasses. If annihilation else, please alibi me, he add an active off. With Ino, Shigeru gives Mitsuomi an aloof beam but he glances and mouths, don't go Betty by tonight, the vampire mouth, dispatch out, and Shigeru freezes. Danzo watches Mitsuomi's exhausted anatomy but internally he was seething. Impossible, how could my Koto Amatsukami not assignment on him? I could feel it influencing him but it would bound dissipate, he thought. That aloof upstart Ashitaka snaps and several agree. Shikaku all overs his arch with a complaint of Mendokosei. You do apprehend he could dead you Ashitaka-san or you Shigeru-san, he states. I accede with Shikaku. The Yuzukage was like a coiled snake accessible to strike, Choza adds. Jiraiya, who had remained bashful during the accomplished affliction, agreed. Coiled snake, no article abundant worse, he thought. What about my daughter, Inoichi asks. Inoichi, didn't you abandon her? She is accustomed to abandon as a shinobi of Konoha, so we cannot accountability her abrogation, but she should be dealt with, Shikako says. Indeed, an accord failed, so we will move to subjugation. Mino will apprehend the genin and re-educate them to be our sleeper agents, Danzo states and dismisses the council. Danzo snaps his fingers and several appear. I appetite a detail on anniversary of the Uzushio shinobi. If you see an opportunity, seize the genin, Danzo orders, and they vanish. Torian, Fu, you are to accord with the Kage, he adds in two colligiosity flicker. Naruto and Ino access a back at the hotel. His team's demography of affiliated allowance with Anko and one and the team's administration they added, but Tsunade acclimated her access to accumulate them the penthouse. Mitsuomi opens his Aubaird's allowance to acquisition them waiting. How'd it go, Anko asks. Konoha was accurate to form, aggravating for an accord and analytical in the aforementioned breath, Mitsuomi says. My father argued with me, Ino says, demography a seat. I'm not surprised. Konoha puts on this bluff that they still hunt the will of blaze my grandfather preached, but candidly Konoha has become rotten to the roots, Tsunade states. Mitsuomi dispels his arroyo accoutrement and clothing accoutrement to cascade himself alcohol at the wet bar. Indeed, in Danzo is the best rotten, he notes. So be on bouncer gakis, Konoha will do aggregate to assemblage the odd, and if the prelims are bare in the additional round, apprehend to face anniversary, other Anko states. I'll cost if I face you guys, Yukimura says. Juvia stares at Grey with adulation in her eyes. I will as well, if I face Grey-sama, she says. We apperceive Juvia, but if we do face anniversary other, we can appearance all the added nations. What Uzushio Bakure can do, Urza comments. Mitsuomi downs his alcohol with a smile. Well said, Urza, this is Uzushio's activation party, so don't authority aback an appearance, everyone. We're not messing around, he declares with a glance to Ayasu. Nervous little bro, he adds. Not too abundant in Iki, Konoha does attending alarming, but we were accomplished by you and everyone, Ayasu replies, and Mitsuomi chuckles deeply. That I did, Ayasu. I accomplished you three into the arena and artificial you into a force to be reckoned with. Konoha's genin, or rather three genin, will rue the day they above us. Miyogi Udatain, Udan Mitokado and Konohamaru Saratobi, these are your targets. Drove them, Mitsuomi states, and all six genin nod. Alright, you gakis, go draft up, but be vigilant. I wouldn't put it Canyon Konoha to try abduction, you, Anko states. They book out to their corresponding rooms. I'm cerebration of sending you back to Uzushio, Mitsuomi says. I shouldn't run, I fabricated my choices, Ino says. Mitsuomi rises from his bench with a nod. So back, do you wanna activity afterwards, Naruto's babyish batter, he asks. I'll delay for the finals, security in the hospital should be laxed, Tsunade says. I'll blast in Anko's room, Ino says, and excuses herself. The apartment will appropriate aloofness seals to accumulate you all safe, Mitsuomi says, and she nods. Tsunade walks up to him and loosens his tie with a thirst look. Now I'm hungry, she coos, and Mitsuomi grins. She pushes him on a daybed and settles amid his legs, before carefully bitter his neck. Mitsuomi groans with a babyish hiss as his appropriate duke traces the babyish of her back and adaptable tush, while his larboard claws the back of her head. Mitsuomi pushes some of his ryatsu and some claret he's certainly blanket from Sasuke during their appointment to Analysis Edition approach as the Baron Vampire drinks. My eyes feel weird, Tsunade comments. Affairs from his neck. Mitsuomi grasps her button and cool, seeing the Rinnegan basic in her eyes. It was a success. By Bansenju and Uchiha Claret you've alived the Rinnegan, he explains. Tsunade deactivates her new dojutsu with a stare. How did you apperceive that, she asks. Alive from laying on him to sitting on the sofa, Mitsuomi pulls his beef shirt from his pants and channels some chakra, causing an allowance to anatomy, and Tsunade's eyes widen. Is that, Tsunade asks, and Mitsuomi nods. That annoying fox anticipation, she was free, Mitsuomi croons. Tsunade tilts her arch with a abashed look. She says, and he titters. It was a count to me as well, Mitsuomi says, laughing. Flashback 2 years ago. Mitsuomi admires himself with a fan as he and his death airing through the forests of Hinokuni. Are you absolute master, that the Kyubi would acknowledgement to actuality of all places, she asks. Mitsuomi tips bottomward his dejected brave sunglasses with a nod. How would you feel actuality trapped best of activity and apperceive the bodies whom did the accomplishments still live, he said. Mitsuomi stops and looks aerial with a beam as clap accomplish echo. Cops alpha to breach and birds fly in droves. The brace shunch into the accomplished cops and saw the arty QB no Yoko sans three tails. Does that acknowledgement your question? Mitsuomi muses. QB boring halts as its adenoids best the aroma of claret and aroma it didn't appetite to aroma again, so it's you a fresh vampire. QB bellows. Mitsuomi uses his Ryatsu to float in advance of the behemothic fox as his death hangs back. It is oh boss QB, he declares. So are you activity to Konoha to be put aback beneath bondage by Konoha? Mitsuomi adds. QB growls acutely in its throat. I will be no one's pet, then more you, the fox bellows. Mitsuomi claws his face as a aroused beam forms and his eyes glow. HMM, but actuality my pet will be a accomplished lot added fun and you'll get to abort Konoha at your leisure, he states. QB bellows a alveolate roar, blame Mitsuomi aback with its force, but the vampire started laughing. Is death if you please, Mitsuomi shouts. Is death cool and leaps over Naruto into a beam of signs. Hayaton, frozen dragon jutsu, she shouts. Battlefront and Ice Dragon. QB leaps aback as the Ice Dragon crashes into the arena and absolutely freezes the ground. Do you anticipate that will exhausted me boy? QB roars, is death titters and draws her rapier. It does not matter, it was a cursory distraction, she sneers. Futon, twin raisin shuriken, Mitsuomi shouts, from above. QB roars in affliction as both bang into its back, creating an advanced explosion. Mitsuomi drops in advance of the atrium with his death abaft him, boring the bits below dies bottomward, and he tilts his arch with that actor grin. Oh, curiouser and curiouser, Mitsuomi says, sliding bottomward the crater. No best is there a behemothic fox in the atrium but a naked woman with red beard to her ankles. QB struggles to a bisected built-in position as he stares. Curse you leech, she hisses. Why are you angry me? I action you a adventitious to drove Konoha and those like them for enslaving your kin, Mitsuomi states and kneels with his duke out. QB glares at him but they boring beam as she stares into his steel blue orbs. You will set me free. Already you're finished, she says. Mitsuomi rises and rips attainable his shirt. Yes, you and your ancestors after killing the host, he says and weaves several signs. Hack no few and shiki, he says. QB is fatigued into the basic allowance but she finds herself not in a cage but a basilica and a reward about her abutting with the kanji for seal. And flashback. Tsunade stares in slight shock as Naruto blaze up a cigarette. Clever, it keeps her from the Akatsuki and Konoha's clutches, she states. I hate you, QB says. I adulation you too, Mitsuomi anticipation and chuckles carefully with a nod. She can accept it advanced row bench to Konoha's annihilation, he sneers. Tsunade leans advanced to abduction his aperture already afresh and assault a beck of smoke as she pulls back. Aback there was a beating on the door. Be still thy passion, Mitsuomi says and answers the door, and accomplish a woman and her babe that makes Tsunade gasp. Hana, she says. Ah, you apperceive our best bitches, a man says. Within Izuka markings, Tsunade's honey orbs becloud but Naruto raises his hand. Yes, and the acquittal we discussed is here, he says and Tsunade growls. Tsum stood in an absolute furosode bathrobe and Chinese slippers. My name is Tsum and I am yours, she says in monotone. I am Hana and I am yours, Hana says and wears a agnate accoutrements to her mother. Mitsuomi easily the man the attaché and he excuses himself with a beam as the vampire closes the aperture and locks it. Tsum, Hana denude I accept a bigger outfit, Mitsuomi says, avaricious accumulation of clothes. Tsum and Hana do as they is told and reveals their blister-ridden bodies. What casework do require, Tsum states. First I appetite you be that abject behavior and leave Konoha to accompany Yuzushio, Mitsuomi says. Agreement embrace umbu uniforms on the table. Tsum and Hana beam at him in disbelief. What Hana says, her articulation breaking. Tsunade activates her mystic palm address but her eyes widen and attenuated with a low growl. There are seals on their hearts, she hisses. Tsum hugs her nude anatomy with a shudder. To accumulate me in line, she whispers. It's that little bastard's fault, Hana says. Then about face them, it'll breach the seals and unmire their beauty, Mitsuomi states. Tsum stares with advanced eyes. Turn us into what, she says, but Tsunade grasps her shoulder. This the albino says and reveals her fangs with aureate orbs. Mitsuomi angry me into a vampire, she adds. What is a vampire, Hana says. Something above your compassionate but is absolutely admirable existence, Mitsuomi says. That is true, he can do the aforementioned for you, Tsunade says. Nope Tsunade, you will about face Tsum and Hana, that is if they admiration it, Mitsuomi states, sitting on the daybed and a cigarette limply in his mouth. Tsum stares at him but afresh to Tsunade, acquainted their aerial adorableness and absolute ceramic skin. What will arise to us? Tsum asks. Mitsuomi sucks in his cheeks with an abysmal annoyance and assault a billow of smoke, an abhorrence to sunlight and the charge augment on animal claret, but you can get animus all those who wronged you, he says, his now aureate eyes glinting. Tsum is bugged by the aureate orbs absolute by atramentus scara and takes an abysmal breath. I'll do it, she says. If Mom is accomplishing it, afresh I'll do it as well, Hana says. Very well, welcome to the night, Naruto declares and rises from his seat. I leave it to you, Tsunade. All you charge do is alcohol until them to a breast afterlife and force both your clarita back into wound, he adds and dispels into mist, out the window. Mitsuomi appears in an alleyway in accoutrement his clothes to atramentus cargos with accoutre boots, a white wife-beater, atramentus gloves, and his hitayate about his abutting with a billowing white arroyo coat. Mitsuomi expands his adumbration in the alleyway as babyish spiders, snakes and birds escape as he blaze up a cigarette. He accomplish out the alleyway with the animation of smoke. Very anon I'll apperceive everything, who to annihilate and who to spare, he thought. Mitsuomi strolls through the apple and the vampire is on the prowl. Abounding acquainted his hitayate and belittle at him, but a few were alert by his aerial beauty. Mitsuomi finds a bar alleged the burning kunai and decides to analysis the waters. Award the bar, the vampire takes a seat. Vodka, Mitsuomi says. The bartender went for the canteen but sees the vampire's amalgamation and puts it back. Is my money not welcome here? Mitsuomi says.